Pledge of Allegiance, ma'am. Flag is...
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And before you sit down, I just would like to maybe offer up a round of applause for our Wetmore folks for giving us such great chairs to sit in. Woo! Very nice.
And what a cool sign to have saying.
Yeah, it's nice.
That looks better on the wall than it did on the floor.
Yeah, how's it?
That's the one that was at the airport?
Yeah, it was one in Denver, and then we added Wetmore to it. It got left off, so we had it last meeting. We had it laying out on the floor so everybody could see it. But so welcome everybody. Thank you, Shannon. Appreciate that. If you do not know, Shannon Auth is our new County Extension Director. Started last month, and so nice to have you here, ma'am. Appreciate it. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Prince?
Present.
Commissioner Flower?
Present.
Commissioner Handa?
Here.
Attorney Clint Smith?
Present.
And Deputy Clerk to the Board, Brenda Gady, present.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Gentlemen, do you have any agenda amendments?
I do, sir.
All right, go ahead.
I'd like to bring up the repairs for the sidewalk out in front of our county office building, county building,
Okay.
with town of Westcliff.
New business,
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for not referring that as the courthouse, because it is not, actually.
I agree.
County buildings. Bear with me while I make that. All right, is there anything else?
That's all I have,
Okay,
sir.
and you agreed that's under new business?
Yes.
Okay. I've got some other things. They're almost report kind of things. I guess I could put it under new business, but I think I'll leave it under commissioner items. I think it's a 50-50 toss. Mr. Kanda, anything?
No. For what? Amended items? No.
Amendments to the agenda?
No.
Okay, thank you. Audience introductions.
Jackie Hobby, Planning and Zoning. Jackie Bubis, Civil.
Dallas Anderson, Airport Advisory Board.
Bob Custer, Airport Advisory Board. Bob Jolly, Airport.
Alan Butler, Airport.
Lynn LeGree, Airport.
Trey Croskell, Volunteer Airport.
Nan Davenport, Wetmore Library.
Courtney Davenport, Wetmore.
Cleo?
Leo Pomeroy, Silver Cliff.
Claudia Morris, Silver Cliff.
Shannon Auth, Extension.
Cindy Howard, Emergency Management.
Shannon Barr, the Sheriff.
Cindy Flower, West Cliff.
Ruth Spar, Wetmore.
John Spar, Wetmore.
Thank you very much. Nice to have you folks here. We do not have any minutes to approve because our clerk and recorder is at a conference, so we will deal with those at our next meeting. Commissioner items. Mr. Prince.
Yes. Since our last meeting, I was with the Early Childhood Development Committee. We all also attended the meeting in Golden for the broadband funding, hopefully. That morning I met with tourism. I'd also like to just, under commission items, talk about the men's restroom down here. We have a ongoing significant issue with one of the fixtures. I've had multiple contacts with the builder and the architect. I sent another email this morning after I was informed that it has not been repaired, and I CC'd your name on that. Actually, I forwarded it to you, so you have it for your records. We're getting to the point, I'm getting concerned that they're just turning our eye to it, so it was not a nice letter. It was more of a, it needs to get done, and it needs to get done now type of letter, and if something doesn't get done pretty quickly, I think I'll have to come back and make some recommendation that some action be taken, that this has just never functioned right. It's not even just a warranty issue. Mm-hmm. It's an issue that it was either improperly installed, the wrong fixture, whatever it was, but it is unacceptable, and we're just not going to allow it to continue on that way. Unfortunately, the sink, we've talked about trying to lower that to make it easier for the mop basin. It would be a major redo because of the elevation of the pipes.
Yep.
We do have an alternative. It's not a good one. You have to take the mop bucket up the elevator, and then we have one that you can dump upstairs. I wish I had a better solution. I just don't know what to do with that. I think we may have to just live with it because of the plumbing and how low this building is compared to the water table.
Yeah, we kind of had that same issue up at the court
Right.
in the basement of the county buildings in Westcliff. Typically, a leg-mounted mop sink has a P-trap right under it. And if you go to a floor-mounted mop sink, then you got to cut the concrete out and excavate, and
That's where we are.
so it may be a possibility, but it may be cost prohibitive, and I just don't know. We'll have to investigate that. But you are planning to do something different, whether it's hire somebody to replace it, buy a new fixture, stay on,
Talking
Mr.
about the
Duke.
men's
Yes,
restroom?
sir, back down here.
It's going to get fixed. That's for sure. It is unacceptable the way it is. I had a friend of mine who's a plumber. I didn't hire him at any expense to come look at the mop sink. These two different items, by the way.
Right, yeah, sorry,
Look
I
at the mop
jumped.
sink. And he concurred that it would be a very significant effort to make it so that the mop could just be dropped at a very low level because of this. So this is just going to be an issue, and I just don't know if it's even fixable, to be truthful with you, at a reasonable.
the mop
I mean,
sink.
everything's fixable. Yeah, the mop sink. The men's restroom, absolutely, is going to get fixed. I don't know how, but it is unacceptable, and it'll be fixed.
Okay, good.
At their expense, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else?
That's all I have, sir.
You want me to go next? All right, I got a few things, some fun things, and some different things. I'm glad to see the airport board is here in force. Some of the advisory guys are coming online soon, I see, right here. I know they were missing some meetings. I had a great meeting with some of them. I missed the first day, but we had a catch-up meeting. Lots of good things. Alan and the team are going to bring us up to speed on some of those. One of which, I had a meeting with Kit Shy, the fire chief hat that he was wearing, and talked to him about the fire truck. And he is all for getting his training guy to train all you guys that want to learn how to start that truck, back it out of there, move it around, keep it going, bring it out for special occasions, for whatever we want to do, work with the fire truck to promote tourism in the valley as well, out that way, and make the airport more friendly to everybody, that they understand what it's all about, to help the economy of the valley and house good airplanes, and a fire station. So that was neat. Alan, you can talk to Rusty or to Kit at some point and figure out when that'll happen. We got to get the truck yet, not here yet.
Truck's not here.
Also followed up after our last meeting with the landfill. Remember, that was quite a meeting. We have a lot of issues brought up on that landfill. Good news, though, with it. Let me get to the notes. Went out there, walked the area a lot, looked at the available land we have. We got a lot of land out there yet that we don't have to worry about purchasing. As a matter of fact, if we looked and took a survey of each place that we can put another trench that we currently own, which would include the gravel pit that's out there, we'll finish it up. It's also available, and it's in Rusty's mind, we've got at least 30 years plus there to use. On the available trenches that we have, we got 6 years worth of a new trench where they currently are doing it, and we have 3 years above that, above the buildings, and we got 15 plus, maybe up to 20 in the, remember the gully that we could fill across? So we've got a lot of time, but we don't want to squander it. And in that time, we've got to work. We're going to be meeting next week with or the week after. Rusty's setting up a meeting with the state engineers, to worry about the permitting process and the cost of the engineering to get the permits, which is in the 100K plus range, whatever it might be. We don't know for sure. And so we've got time to raise the money for that, make that happen, and still meet the needs and put a plan out that's not just going to get off of our terms and into somebody else's hair to worry about getting the trash in the valley handled. So that's good. Also with Rusty, went out, there's 15 acres on Grape Creek from the old gravel pit that we had. Nice spot, something we ought to think about. One time, I think Bob Cinderhoff had an idea that you could have a fish and fun place down there, a little tourism, recreational area maybe, kind of thing. Something to think about for our economic development, maybe. Or it's valuable land, 15 acres right there on Grape Creek, with some hay land on one side. It straddles the creek. The county could sell it, and or trade it for some land or some right-of-ways that might be needed in the future. So it's something we'll bring up as we go along. Also talked with Mr. Pickrell on the golf course. Talked to Bob Cinderhoff. It's not sold yet. It's not under contract yet. Bob Cinderhoff plans to list it for around $500K. Be nice hayland out there, but it's a nice golf course too. So it might be under consideration. He would like us to be able to sponsor it as a municipal golf course at some point, not necessarily putting the money into it, but he's got some ideas to get grants to do that, to develop that. Who knows? The buildings aren't worth anything except for the what is it, the conference center kind of place, the banquet room. So we'll be working with that idea when we materialize some things. The road and bridge, we have a safety issue on the water trucks that came up because you guys see the CDOT boys up here weighing everybody. County's not immune to that either. They got caught. Not because they were worried about getting caught. It's just that turns out in the inspection, the axles on those trucks are underrated. They're if you meet the requirement, the load requirement, we can only put a half a load of water on those trucks. That makes it useless, basically. Back axles also would need to be replaced. Preliminary review, and I got Gary's coming back with actual numbers, what it might cost, but it's running around $15,000 to $20,000 a truck to modify them. A couple of those trucks aren't worth $15,000. So in discussing it with him, the good news is, and that's all 5 trucks. There's 5 water trucks, 1 down here and 4 up in the valley. Good news is we do have a fund already that's in the budget that is for maintenance and replacing the trucks. The plan had it that we do the semi trucks first, the truck and trailer hauling the low boy around and others. Mm-hmm. Those trucks are in pretty good shape, and there's no urgency to replace them right now. So we've got enough in the cash flow bin to put substantial amount down on. We would need to replace 3 of these trucks. They're 700,000 miles plus on a couple of them, and not worth too much. We can trade them, get the money for those, add it to a pot, and lease 3 new trucks with the tanks, correct tanks on them. These were all modified in the past. So we got a plan in front that's meetable, and it's within the budget we currently have. So that's the good news. So we'll see what Gary brings back with the actual numbers later. Let's see. signs, this is one of the fun things. When I grew up here, every sign had a cool name. And I don't know if you all know the history of the signs in the valley, the road signs. There's Macy Lane, Schoolfield Road, Colfax Colony, all those kind of things. Did you know that lanes run north and south? And did you know that roads run east and west? So in the old days, people that would say, I take a right on Horn Road, go west, it was pretty straightforward. Horn Road. Macy Lane, you go north and south. So it was easy to give directions, and you had a perspective of where things were. A number, 129 and 130, doesn't make much sense, especially to people out of town. So here's a pretty neat way to handle things, and maybe it helps promote tourism as well. We got history with those, and so I talked with several people that have sent in requests. Who ordered these signs down? Well, the signs have been just falling down, and the reason the other signs are up is because back when we started growing pretty quickly in the valley in the 70s and 80s, the phone company had a hard time finding these subdivision roads, and they wound all over the place. So they decided they'd number them for themselves to help locate it for their people, and then we adopted it. Post office did it as well. So nobody ordered the old signs down, but they've been falling down. So maybe we can have an adopt a road kind of thing, adopt a sign. And it turns out that we already replaced some of the signs, and we have the ability to paint them ourselves. And we do that, the county does. And the problem is they're just green and white like the number signs are. They're not anything special, but at least the name would be up. We can do that, and Gary's got High's got a list of all the corners that have these signs to be replaced. But it would be nice to maybe promote a history. You know how you can pull up and you can say, all right, this is Colfax. Why is it called Colfax? Why is Colony the way it is? We had the German settlements in here, the colonies of people, and all those kinds of things would be kind of a neat thing to do. Maybe add to the bicycle trails. You can read about a sign or a piece of the valley. So that's in the works, and that's covered. That's in the change that we've got to put signs up. So you'll see some of the old names starting to show up in clearer pictures now.
Do you anticipate those signs going on the existing sign posts?
Yeah, right now. And because I want to talk to the post office too and find out if somebody decides to mail. And I had no problem getting mail sent to Horn Road yet, but it could be. We do get some post office boxes mixed up here, and we got new postmaster. Jay?
Got a question. Just a concern, if we go to names, will that impede emergency services?
Shouldn't.
Absolutely will.
Will it?
It will have a huge impact.
But the other signs will stay up.
As long as all the roads are referred to as county roads, because everything's been entered into GIS.
Right.
County road, therefore.
That can. We're not taking down that would not take down the numbers or those posts at all.
We're having problems with Code Red if you go and enter your address
Yeah, I've heard that.
as Macy Lane
Yeah.
instead of
Doesn't-
County Road
doesn't
136. We're
recognize
not
it.
going to find you. We're not
So that's a
gonna
good
be able
point. We got to make
evacuate
sure. That's a very good point.
you. So both the E911 CAD system, the GIS, and Code Red could all be public safety issues.
So we got to work that.
Years
Yeah.
ago, the county offered anyone that wanted to replace their sign on their county road. They left the county road sign, and for $25, you could put the name back on the sign down your road.
So there's some of them that they're still there. Of course.
Yeah.
So we're talking about in addition to the county
Just-
road number signs?
Yes, not
replacing.
taking the number signs.
But,
okay.
but your physical address that you're using for your CenturyLink and all.
Well, that right now,
Your landline,
nobody's going to want to change their addresses anyway.
Well,
It's too expensive.
I know Chuck does a lot of corrections right now, and he usually gives those at the E911 authority, so you can
Yeah.
talk to him some more about it, but just be aware of that.
Right, those are good things to bring up.
Good point.
And Elin Parker, well, I can't remember.
Ganschow.
Yeah, Ganschow. Volunteered to kind of be a chairman of a group of people that would work this adopt a road kind of thing, see what we can come up with. Anyway, that's a fun thing to do. And then just a reminder, there's a Hibbs Peak meeting Or
talked
is
about
it
it
is
yesterday.
it Buck Mountain, or is it whatever? What else is it called out there? And
official.
What do you want it to be called? You want it to be called Lookout?
The lease says lookout. You're the hips guy and John Decker's the
I know. Well,
sugarloaf
that's
guy.
right. I know. We're all talking about it. Well, in any case, I met with Kit Shy. We're going to straighten out the survey and make sure all the right-of-way is cleared and we get a clear thing through Silver Cliff on up to the mountain. And we're going to meet on tomorrow with all the stakeholders up there, clean up the radios. There's still some of old Mr. Art Hibbs's radio equipment up there still. That doesn't need to be there.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Thank you. I don't mean to interrupt you while you're on a roll.
But you did.
Well, I raised my
okay.
hand.
I'm glad you
I just
did.
didn't start talking. If Kit does the survey, will that be done as a county
Yes.
survey, or he's not going to charge the county anything extra?
That's part of his job, and we're going to meet first with the. We're going to meet and discuss it, and figure out
That's fine.
a plan of attack. Yeah,
Good.
he's our surveyor, and
I
we need
know,
to
but we
straighten
asked him once before to do some surveying for the county, and he wanted to charge us. I just want to make sure that this is part of his duties
I
as the
asked him
county
to wear his
surveyor.
county surveying hat. So,
Okay.
and anyway, tomorrow is that meeting with the stakeholders up there, and we're going to discuss a couple things, including cleaning up the equipment, and one would be purchase of the ground as a county. The towers are sitting on as a county asset, and there is people are paying rent for the towers right now, and the BLM gets that and uses it, and so we'll work through some ideas on that. We're not talking immediately. It's a plan that would have to evolve. See how it works out. And let's see. I think that's enough for now.
Good. Well, I'll just quickly run through what I have been doing as far as my schedule. On March 7th, I attended a search and rescue board meeting. On the 8th, I went to Salida to the Upper Arkansas Water Conservation for Conservancy District meeting. On March 12th, I traveled down to Werfeno County to meet with their county administrator, John Galusha, and discussed with him at some length, spent a couple hours talking to him about how Werfeno County is approaching their needs assessment problem. They're looking at funding a new judicial system, a justice center right down the street from their courthouse. So I got some good information from him. Obviously attended the DOLA grant hearing in Golden. All three of us, of course, went to that. March 14th, I sat in on an Arkansas River Basin Roundtable meeting in Pueblo. Keith Hood is on that roundtable. We appointed him to that position in January, so I attended that meeting with him. On the 15th, I traveled to Salida to the steam plant and sat in on their tourism and outdoor recreation sector meeting up there. We are one of 4 counties in that region, Fremont, Custer, Chaffee, and Lake County. So they've got a lot of stuff going in that realm. On the 16th of March, I attended the CART Summit Roundtable meeting, was in West Cliff. I had a nice meeting with those folks. I attended a tourism workshop at the Coyote Moon Lodge there in West Cliff. Brent Bruiser hosted that meeting, and they're looking at they've got a subcommittee that's looking at coming out with a branding project for the county, and they just, I think yesterday, I received the surveys electronically, so if you haven't, you should be getting those, as well as anybody that they have email addresses for in the county. They'd like to get some input on that. And then March 19th, I mediated a meeting with between the Fair Board and an individual in Custer County that had some concerns and issues he wanted to bring forth. So the Fair Board asked me to mediate that meeting. I thought it went fairly well. We had reasonable attendance. People in the community also were interested in how that went. So And then yesterday, I attended the Search and Rescue Council meeting. It's really CES, not Search and Rescue. So Custer Emergency Services, all the different entities that are involved in that have a monthly meeting, and so I sat in on that as well. And then last night, Bill and I, if I can speak for you, sir, attended the Republican County Assembly, and both of us were elected as delegates to go to the state convention in April. And I just want to tell the board and our audience that the esteemed Mr. Kanda was the #1 vote getter as a delegate. So, yeah, that was nice. I was pleased with that. So that's a report on what I've been doing as far as meetings and that. And I apologize for referring that to Search and Rescue. That I know that's not correct. I wrote it down that way. So, and then I wanted to just mention, gentlemen, that we had a microwave that decided it wanted to overcook something on its own. Not actually, because I think it was programmed incorrectly. But anyway, I think it was Monday.
Did you blow it up?
I did not. I'm innocent. The ground level of the courthouse was filled with smoke. Well, I didn't get there. It happened right at 8, and I was probably 8:15 or 8:30 before I got to the courthouse. So the smoke was pretty well vented out of there at that time, so I never did physically see the smoke. I think Brenda did. But it brought to forefront the question of our smoke detectors. None of them went off, whether they're not functional or whether we did not have enough smoke. Again, I wasn't there, so I can't
Are they
speak to
downstairs?
that.
We got
So,
detectors downstairs?
yeah, there's smoke detectors all over the place. I've got a report on those. I asked our maintenance person to go through and do an inventory on those smoke detectors. They're, I can't remember the exact number. I think he said 37.
Jeez.
Yeah, 37 smoke detectors.
Not even in your office, Jackie?
In
It's
the-
always
We're the
smoking in there.
stepchildren, so we're good.
In the county building. And so in his inventory, he went through and tested those to see if the alarms were functional, and all of them were. But through research, we also realized that that doesn't really mean anything. The sensors could be clogged up, could be malfunctioning. So at some point, we're going to need to talk about replacing those, and I'll share that information with you. I think of those 37, 17 of them were over 17 or 15 years old, and 14 of them were at least 10 years old. And the manufacturers recommend replacement every 10 years. Obviously, replace the batteries annually. We found, I think, 1 or 2 of those detectors that didn't even have a battery in them. And so we will, I would assume that will come before us again, and we'll look at that. Just a rough cursory look, those smoke detectors range anywhere from $6 to $35 or $40. So I'm guessing we're probably looking at $20, $25 a piece to replace approximately 40 of those. So
There were a number, I think there were 4, and they were all in the Search and Rescue building that were just a couple years old.
yeah,
So
okay. Yeah, I'm not necessarily all 37 have to be replaced, but and that survey did include the county building, the courtroom, obviously, and the annex and the search and rescue building. So it did not include the sheriff's
you're on your own.
office.
I would just suggest we make this a high priority because we're talking about public safety.
Yeah, so if I had to guess, I'd say we're probably looking at $1,000 to replace those. And I spoke with Kit Shy, the fire chief, about what the fire department would recommend for brands. And he said there are several. He said, all I can tell you is there is one brand I would not recommend. He shared that with me, and so we'll move forward.
Mr. Chairman, considering we don't meet again for a couple of weeks, and we're not talking about a significant amount of money, can we make a motion just to go ahead and authorize the purchase of those based upon the fire chief's recommendations and take it out of repairs and maintenance budget so we can get this done? I would just hate for something to happen. Now that we know there's a problem, let's get it fixed. Would that be appropriate?
I believe it would personally, yes.
I'll move to do that.
Okay, and I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of County Commissioners move forward with replacing the smoke detectors as needed, with those funds obviously coming out of maintenance and repair. Any further discussion about that, gentlemen? Because this is an item we'll be voting on, we also will allow public comment. One of our formats is to allow public comment on any item that the commissioners will be voting on, and obviously common sense dictates that that public comment happens before we vote and not after. However, sometimes I forget, so I will always try to remember to ask for public comment before we vote, but I seem to get on a roll. Yes, ma'am.
I'm in support of replacing all of the smoke detectors in all of the public buildings, including the jail, particularly the jail when you have inmates that are locked and cannot get out. I'm also in support of the county looking into a fire prevention program schedule of surveillance, testing, and recording that action is done.
Okay.
Because that's a compliance issue.
Good, thank you. Yeah, and that conversation is going on. It's ongoing currently. We are looking at coordinating with the fire department, sheriff's department on some, if you will, fire drills, classes and training on use of fire extinguishers. We're looking at the possibility of installing a networked fire alarm system, and so, yep, all those things in the work. Thank you.
Fire drills.
Yeah. Fire drills. Anyone else prior to voting on the smoke detectors? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Let the record show that we will replace those smoke detectors and do that as soon as possible. And I will speak with our maintenance gentleman and Mr. Shine. We'll get that moving. Thank you. Appreciate it. And that's all I have under
Before you move on, I
Commissioner
forgot
item.
one thing.
Go ahead, sir.
Fairly important. We have a broadband meeting. We've been working with Action 22, Sarah Blackhurst, this last couple of weeks. And there is a good meeting at the state level. There is money that's becoming available for other things with broadband. It's going to be an educational meeting of things that are available. We want to keep our eye on that as we start down the path if we do get the grants to build these towers that we've talked about. So that happens on Friday, this Friday, and it starts at 10, I think it is.
That's correct.
Down in Pueblo.
Yeah.
So anybody, I think, is welcome to go down there.
Jay, were you planning on attending that meeting?
Yeah, I had already RSVP'd directly.
Yeah.
And I sent an email to Brenda telling her that I was coming, but
Good. Yeah.
I taken care of that directly.
Yeah, as am I, planning on going to that as well. So all three commissioners will be
If
at that
anybody
meeting.
goes, it's $25.
Yeah.
Because they're feeding you. I hope it's lobster for that much.
Yeah. Just so you
Something
know,
for
Action
lunch. 22
is 22 counties in the mid-southwest of Colorado. So it's an advocacy group for issues that are common to all of us, rural and little counties. And big ones too, Pueblo's in it, Alamosa's in it.
Okay, so yeah, we'll all three be there. It's at 101 South Main Street, Suite 400 in Pueblo. So, anything else, gentlemen, under commissioner items?
No, sir.
Counselor, anything for the good of the order?
I was summoned to the office of Ms. Hobby, our planning and zoning director. She regularly wants to meet with me. She always, on zoning violations, her procedure is to send out letters herself. If she doesn't get a response, I'll send out letters. And then sometimes we need to sit down and talk about when we do get a response. She got a response on one, so that's pretty routine. We talk a lot about those things, try to handle them informally if we can. At the request of our sheriff, I prepared a proposed fire ban resolution that's on the agenda today, and he's here. Also, at your request, Commissioner Flower, I prepared a proposed resolution concerning our weed advisory board that was distributed to you, and I think that's going to be an agenda item for our end of the month meeting on March 30th. I assisted yesterday in a personnel issue that came up at the courthouse. I guess that's about all I've done since the last time around.
All right, sir. Thank you. Pardon? Oh, yeah. And again, I apologize. There's some things that get by me. I would just, no, sir. No, sir. You're not getting off of that easy. We've now got an ongoing thing about neckties. And of course, Counselor Smith always leads the way in style and fashion. So, sir, if you could just open that jacket back up, we would thoroughly.
Every tie I have is a gift. This was from some friends who went to Alaska. They got this in Alaska. But I'm just to put this to bed. The other day I went into Mr. Prince's pawn shop and bought a couple of bolo ties. I'm just going to be wearing some bolo ties.
Well, I guess as chairman, sir, I would be remiss if I did not say that I doubt this has been put to bed, especially if you show up in a bolo tie. So, anyway, I appreciate your humor, sir, and we've had fun with that. And that is a nice looking tie. Is that a train on the front of it? I'm taking
It's the train that goes up to Denali in Alaska, I think.
Okay, all right. Excellent. Administrative assistant.
Just a couple things. You talked about the tourism survey, and Greg Smith from the tourism board asked me to have hard copies in the office in case people couldn't access it electronically. So I do have those in my office. And talked about the fire extinguishers, and I just wanted to let everyone know that the fire extinguishers are inspected annually. So.
I beg forgiveness because I actually, at the tourism meeting, thought that you would help them with the surveys. So I forgot to mention that to you, but I figured it was a matter of setting them somewhere and people could come in and pick them up.
And are they online?
Evidently.
They are electronically. Now, I don't know if they're available online. My understanding was at the last meeting I sat in that they were going to send those out to people. So I don't know exactly how that's going to happen. Brent Bruiser, Greg Smith, Renee.
There's a press release that's going to go in the papers. So, and I have a copy of it. That's it.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. We'll move on. I don't believe we have any staff report. Staff that's here, I think, is here for agenda items. So,
Can I make one quick comment so I won't have to stay? There's about 25 cords of wood out here. That's just part of what's coming out, and that is free for the taking.
Wow.
I'm going to get that out to the papers.
okay. And out here being
Just
right up
Right
here,
outside. You can't miss it.
south of
take a
it.
look.
Okay.
Some of it's large, but that's coming out of the Wetmore
Wow.
project. There's more coming, and
So they can just
I'm
drive
gonna be-
in, back up, load what
Yep.
they want.
I'm going to
Woo.
be getting that out to, Daily Record Chief and everybody, and we're going to try to keep that fuel moving out of Custer County.
Okay, good, thank you.
There's a lot getting picked up. There were a lot of pickups.
Was there? Really? Good. Excellent. Okay. I didn't even see it. We pulled in and parked and came in the
That's
north
why
door,
Teresa
so.
drug me out to show
Oh,
me
okay.
that she needs the word out.
Yeah, good. Excellent. Thank you. Let's move on then to old business, the Wetmore Library software upgrade. Miss Nan, you have the floor, if you would so
Do
choose.
you all have a copy of,
Yes.
because I
I'll
have.
have to.
First of all, I need to apologize. Somehow when we sent both of your letters, your names were large on our screen, but when they went up there, when we sent them, we noticed your name was very tiny. That was not personal. It was a glitch in the... So I didn't want you to think that I was trying to slight you. It happened on yours. Jay's was fine, so I just wanted to...
Sure
I
it
don't know.
was. You did that on purpose.
I couldn't do it on purpose if I wanted to. I don't even know what happened. Do you want me to go over it again, or do you
I'm
need a
pulling
hard-
mine up. Give me
What?
just a second if
Can I
you don't
suggest
mind.
that you just read the letter that you sent to me,
Okay.
just for the record, and
Okay.
then, I think we'll both, I know Tom and I spoke with Donna Hobby about where funds would come from, and I think we're both fairly comfortable. So why don't you go ahead and read it, so
Okay.
just for the record, and then we'll move forward from there, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so I sent this to each one of them.
Right.
The Wetmore Library requests $3,000 from the Conservation Trust Fund in the Custer County to allow the library to move from the antiquated Follett library system to AspenCat. This new system would link our library to 115 other Colorado libraries through shared cataloging systems and a courier which shuttles the borrowed books around the state. It is quite an amazing system. I've been in contact with Bob Benhoff, the AspenCat Services Manager, several times these past 2 weeks by phone and by email. He, as well as the Colorado State Library staff, are very excited at the prospect of having us come on board, knowing what a huge asset it is to small communities. So how that works is you can look at a catalog of the 115 libraries that are on it. So the books from all these libraries are available to each library. So it would open up our collections many times. So the fees include $400 flat fee, $1,575 fee for between 5,000 and 10,000 records, approximately $500 for the migration fee, which is 8 cents per record, $111 for the courier fee to deliver books between libraries, and then an additional $414 manpower hours to learn and to teach the volunteers. So that would be $3,000. When a library is committed to being a part of the AspenCat system, they are usually scheduled to begin the process 6 months out, which would put Wetmore beginning in the late fall or the early winter of 2018. And I appreciate your consideration for making this huge update for the Wetmore Community Library.
Okay. The figures that you provided in that letter were an annual basis, or are some of those a one-time
Well,
fee?
the migration would not be.
Would not
and
be.
the manpower hours would not be. The rest would be.
So the $500 and the $414 would not be an annual?
Right.
That's
so
a one-time?
Correct.
Okay. And the other three would be an annual thing?
Correct.
So we're roughly looking at about $2,000 a year to maintain this down here?
Right. We'll budget that for future budgets.
Well, I would assume you would budget that and present that to the...
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And what was the budget you submitted this year, Nan, to the commissioners? I could look it up, but do you remember how much that was?
In the last few years, we've been getting about $6,000.
Okay.
That's worked up slowly over the years. We operate on a budget of approximately $10,000. I am part-time. I'm the only paid, and I'm very part-time. I'm really full-time. And so I get paid for about 10 hours a week or more or less. There's many volunteer hours in there as well. And so really, we really rely on what the county can give us, and also from the Spirit campaign allows us to continue. We're so thankful for that.
Good.
That's how we operate.
Okay, good. What's the group's pleasure?
Chairman?
Hold on just a second, please. Okay.
I would like to move that we reallocate, if that's the right word, Conservation Trust Fund money that will not be used in 2018. It may be requested again in 2019, but the funds are available in the Conservation Trust Fund at this moment. So I move that we allocate money from that, the $3,000 that's requested, to bring the Wetmore Library into the 21st century. The system they're currently using, the Follett system, is how many years old?
18. It was discontinued 18 years ago, and a library gave it to us free.
Discontinued 18 years ago.
Yeah.
So obviously it's of limited use. So that I move that we allocate the money from Conservation Trust Fund, $3,000, to upgrade to the AspenCat system.
Okay, I'll second that motion. Discussion, gentlemen?
Let me ask a couple questions.
Okay.
It's not really clear. I see $111 for courier fee, so that's normal. That's every year. I see the $500 is a migration fee, so that's not every year, right? And the $414 additional manpower hours to learn, that's not annually either, right? So all I see annually is $111, and the $1,500 is just a transfer fee, right?
That's annual.
Or is that annual?
That's annual.
Oh, so that's to keep it up. Okay, that makes more sense.
Because they're maintaining all those records.
Okay, so it's 1,500 plus 111.
And then that flat fee.
That's it. And the flat fee's
And the
just
flat
once.
fee's 400 first line.
Yeah, but that's just once, or is that every year?
No.
I didn't ask that question. I can find out for you. I actually.
Okay, just curious. It doesn't really doesn't impact the vote. I just want to make sure we're clear on what the annual costs are.
Yeah,
And so we can
I
budget
don't know about
it
the
right.
flat fee. I know that the 1575 is annual. The 111 is annual.
Okay.
So max looks like it's around 2,000,
Right.
1,600, 1,700 if it's not annually. So, and I'm assuming in October when you come to the commissioners, your budget request would reflect whatever you find out about that $400. Any further discussion, gentlemen?
Can,
Go ahead, Brenda.
Oh, go ahead.
well, I just want to say, I've been doing the Conservation Trust Fund for the last couple of years, and speaking for Donna as well, we budgeted $31,600 for 2018, and 3,000 puts it 1,000 over our budget. So you would have to do a supplemental budget if you wanted to pay it out of 2018 Conservation Trust. Since it's going to be later in the year, is there any way to delay some of that money to 2019, like 1,000?
Oh.
I mean, we can do it.
Right.
We can do the supplemental budget, but we have to let Donna know she has to do a supplemental
And she was
budget.
on board with this discussion.
I think that's the right thing to do, actually.
To do
That supplemental.
budget. And, we had a budget of 31.6 because
Got
that's
money to vote.
approximately
Right.
what we thought we
Right.
would bring in.
We don't know that
2018.
exactly, yeah.
So you're saying the money, the 3,000 wouldn't be in until 2019?
No.
No,
not
there's
what we're saying.
2,000 available now that was budgeted. There's just 1,000 that wasn't budgeted for 2018. Everything else is, goes for something else.
We would have to adjust the budget to add the additional 1,000 into the trust fund to have the 3,000 to give to you. And I think that's appropriate.
I
That's
do.
$2,000 was if I'm not mistaken, was that the tennis court for
Yes.
for West Cliff? Yeah, that project is definitely not going to happen in 2018. They'll come back in 2019 and ask again, but that's
Well,
another budget request.
And the
We'll-
thing to think about is if we take it out of 2018, there might be 1,000 less for 2019.
Correct. Correct.
We have not expended all those Conservation Trust Fund dollars to date, correct?
Correct.
Just about
Most of it.
20,000 of it.
Yeah, okay. All right, further discussion?
John, what
Yes, sir.
I think the motion needs to be phrased in terms of actually amending the 2018 budget, not just allocating some money, but I think it needs to be clear that you're amending the budget. I would defer to Donna on that since that's her job, but I think it should be an amendment to the budget.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, our conversation with her was expending the $2,000 out of the Conservation Trust Fund. Where the other $1,000 was coming from, she did not articulate that to me, so I don't have a problem with amending that budget.
But just phrasing in terms of
Or-
That it'll
the
be
motion, that it's an amendment to the 2018 budget.
Make
I
it happen.
believe all the Conservation Trust Fund money that's allocated or dispersed is through the budget process.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So based on,
So for the record,
Yeah,
would you
based
care
on
to
what Quinn
withdraw your
said,
motion then?
well,
Original motion or just amend it?
I just
Okay.
amended to say that we'll adjust the budget to reflect the allocation. Would that be acceptable?
That's fine. And I'm not sure about the other $1,000, how that's going to be
That'll
handled.
be worked.
Is there a second to the amendment?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to amend the main motion by adding the words, amend the budget to allocate that $2,000. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The amendment carries. I'm sorry. So the motion then before the group as amended is to expend $3,000 for the Aspen Cat software program and to amend the budget to allocate that money accordingly. Discussion. Or public comment, sorry.
I just wanted to clarify that Nan originally had that in her budget proposal for $6,000. She failed to mention that she only got $3,000 in the actual budget process that they cut. She was the only one that they cut.
Yes.
Remember that?
Just for the record.
Yeah. Okay. Other public comment? Hearing none, proceed to vote. Gentlemen, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Let the record show that the commissioners have allocated $3,000 for your Aspen Cat.
Thank you very much.
You're entirely welcome.
That'll be a huge asset to all of our
Good.
patrons.
Well, good luck with that, and we will get with Donna. Any other old business, gentlemen, come before the group this time? Hearing none, we'll move to new business. Again, we will allow public comment prior to the vote on each of the items listed under new business. Our first item is the fire ban. Discussion concerning instituting a fire ban. Sheriff Byerly, would you care to assume the floor, sir?
You want me to come up there?
Yes.
Stand wherever you can be seen and heard and hammered.
Yes, I'll just stand.
Okay, you're welcome to bring a chair, either one.
As I shared with you in emails a couple weeks ago, even started the discussion, but been in contact with Kit as well. Dave, prior to Kit assuming the fire chief position. So, with the conditions that we have right now, and the troubles we're seeing in surrounding counties about fires. I don't know if anybody knows, but just late last week into the weekend, Fremont County had 3 fires intentionally set. That they got out pretty quick, fortunately. But we're just in a high fire danger right now, and reading in and listening into the fire calls on Monday mornings with BLM and Forest. One of the challenges we will have in setting a fire ban is that the forest does not move into fire restrictions yet, and the BLM, while they have 3 of their primary criteria met for fire fire restrictions, they're not moving into fire restrictions either yet. I think they are hanging their hat on. There's some forecast models that are showing a possibility of some moisture next week. So before you just you decide and you vote, anticipate that if we do go into fire restrictions today and we get 6 inches of snow on Tuesday, then your phones will be ringing and we'll be called idiots. It just happens. We're being called idiots right now because we're not in fire restrictions. It's just the way it works. So honestly, I don't think if we get 3 or 4 inches of snow, I don't think it's going to make a difference. Quite frankly, it's bad. I think the little bit of snow I got in my house just the other night, before it could hit the ground, you could hear the dirt sucking it in before it even got to the ground. So I recommend that we go to stage 2 fire restrictions. We just skip 1 and go right to 2.
Explain that. So
I can't. I'm not going to be able to just recite the entire ordinance.
Not generally.
So basically, it's going to restrict all burning, other than if it's in your fireplace or your stove. You can still have a propane grill. You can still do some of those things that are designed. You can have a charcoal grill sitting on your deck. Because it's in what it does do though is it does stop people from cutting firewood, out in the forest. It does. It stops those types of activities, unless you can't be out 4-wheeling all over the countryside unless you have have a muffler on. You have spark arresters, those types of things. You can't be burning. You can't have a tent in your front yard with a little sheep herder stove in there that doesn't have a spark a restaurant. It limits those type of things. You can't have campfires. So like at Lake Deweese or something, you can't have a campfire. It doesn't matter if it's in the grate, if you had a grate or a fire ring or not. You cannot have those things. It all has to be very strictly controlled fires.
You're recommending this for 30 days? Is that what it is?
I would say we do 30 days with the ability that if we were to get some significant moisture, that you could, in a meeting, you could rescind that if it was needed, if it was warranted. Yes, sir.
Is that going to stop these boys that are cutting the lawn?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing.
Teresa asked about that. I don't know if we can make an exception, but that grant is moving forward, and that's what they're at now, is cutting that wood down here.
So if the chainsaw saw has a factory spark arrestor on it, and they have, I would recommend that they have a fire extinguisher or a water source, then they can still do it. But it has to have a spark arrestor on it. Just like you can ride your four-wheeler, on the trails as well, as long as the four-wheeler has a spark arrestor on it. But a lot of people modify theirs and they take that stuff off of there because it makes the saw or the ATV run better.
More power.
Gives it more power, so they take them off and just. We don't typically see those as being what causes the fires, but I mean, we had it.
What caused the intentional fires in Fremont? Some vandalism kind of thing?
No, somebody was starting fires.
Just to be.
Yeah, to get a fire.
I mean, it was purposely arson.
Arson, yes.
I wanted to just mention now, the Stage 2 ban does not, and you alluded to it, does not make it unlawful to operate this equipment. It has to have spark arrestors on it. And are these fire bans, I thought they were automatic maximum 30-day bans. They have to be revisited.
That is typically what the commission does that. And, because this is the first time that the three of you have had to deal with fire restrictions starting off. Yeah, but typically it's 30 days, then we reassess in 30 days.
And the fire chief concurs with your recommendation?
The fire chief agrees.
And we can always lift the restriction prior to 30 days
Absolutely.
If we feel it's appropriate.
Absolutely.
So based upon the recommendation of the sheriff, our head fire marshal, I recommend that the county institute immediately a Stage 2 fire ban as outlined in the discussion.
Instead of recommend, I'm assuming you meant move.
I meant move, I'm sorry.
I move. It's been moved and seconded to move to a Stage 2 fire ban for Custer County. Further discussion? Is there anything else?
So I'm going to note, if you do vote to approve, I'll notify the Forest Service, BLM, that we've done this. It's important, though, that our citizens understand. So if somebody's at a Forest Service campground, it doesn't apply. They can have a fire because the Forest Service has to stipulate and they have to have fire restrictions in place. It's kind of a cumbersome system. I know, like we've got Forest Services doing a big controlled burn in Chaffee County today. And so, the forest does their thing. We don't have a lot of control over that. But I will notify them that we're doing this. A lot of times they like to try to fall in step so that it's all contiguous, so that citizens aren't confused and they can burn, in 100 yards they can type thing. So I'll do that. I think it is important we get it in the newspaper so that folks know. We'll put it on social media. We'll do a lot of the advertisements. I'll let KLZR know so they can broadcast that as well. I'm going to let the DA's office know as well what we're doing and the problems we have, because last year, as a lot of folks know, we had some serious struggles with the DA's office dismissing tickets with people burning recklessly. And we don't just arbitrarily go out and write somebody a ticket because it's the fire ban. We have a chat with them, but some people were being very reckless. We wrote them tickets and the DA's office just dismissed them without even a conversation. So that's not going to happen this time. I'm going to try to prevent that from happening this time.
The DA works for us. We fund the DA's office, so we have to have that conversation.
That'll work.
Yeah.
But it's a separate branch of government. We have no control of it.
No, but we can certainly
other than we do pay them.
We can voice our opinion to them about these very kind of things happening. Can you just, on a thumbnail sketch, talk about Stage 1, 2, and 3, the differences?
Well, so stage one is basically, so that prevents, that's the most liberal fire restriction. So what that does is that just prevents some basic things like you can't just be throwing, I mean, you should be doing it anyways, but people throw their cigarette butts out the windows and stuff like that. So that we can actually cite people for that. Believe it or not, people don't get cited for that normally if they're throwing a cigarette butt out the window when there's not fire restrictions in place. That's not something that, but so it does things like that. Have to have like a campfire has to be in a fire ring. You can't just start a campfire in the middle of the grass there. So it limits. It's very liberal. It limits campfires. Some other burning. If you have a charcoal grill, you have to have it in a more limited space where you can't start a fire by touching the grass or anything like that.
Does it restrict a rancher from doing a grass burn in a bar?
So even with fire restrictions in place, you cannot. Agricultural burning is a completely different animal, and it's regulated by the Department of Agriculture, not by. So if they're burning ditches, it's one thing, but what it does do, but you can't burn slash piles. So once you go into fire, stage one, then it does limit some ag stuff as far as burning slash piles and those type of things. So it does restrict that. But like burning ditches and cleaning out irrigation ditches and getting ready for the summer, because supposedly we'll have some water. I'm not so sure on that right now. But they can still do that even under stage 2 restrictions, because that exemption comes into place because we can't interfere with their way of life. So, but it is important to know, if you start a fire and it gets out of control, that is on your dime, and fires get stupid expensive really, really quick. The little bitty
fire, 38 acres, $280,000. Fremont County is having to pick up $94,000 of the price tag. That was last June.
So people have to understand. I mean, it can ruin you that quick if you start a fire and it gets out of control. And honestly, you've got two sides of that. I mean, people, fire, and they don't think about it, and then you've got other folks that are paranoid about every spark. So that's stage 1. Stage 2 is the next step. It's more strict, limits all campfires. You can't have campfires at all.
What about burn barrels, Shannon?
So, no, in stage 2 you can't have a burn barrel anymore. In stage 1 you can, in stage 2 you cannot. The stage 2 actually gets into it affects four-wheeling and ATVing and that type of thing, because now you have to have the spark arresters. Chainsaws have to have those type of things. And then, of course, stage 3 is basically lockdown. There is no off-roading where there's, off of developed roads, those types of things. It locks everything down. There's basically no burning. You can't have a charcoal grill going on your deck even. But I mean, stage 3, that's
pretty serious.
That's pretty serious. Not that the others aren't, of course.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And I will say this too: if you have any questions about the fire ordinance, or the burn ordinance rather, it's on the county website. Right. On the sheriff, you go to the sheriff's page, it has it right there. If you go to the OEM page, it has right there. It has the entire ordinance. You can read it. Please, if you're going to have a fire, or you're going to do something that's fire-minded, read it so that you don't get in trouble. And I'm not really worried about you getting in trouble. I'm worried about the county getting in trouble because we end up burning up. Because right now, man, I have to tell you, you can look and see. It's a pool of gasoline out there, boy, and it's just going to take one little, and with the dang wind.
Gotta ask quick. The Sentinel's here, but the Tribune's not. Can you get a hold of the Tribune and explain what the stage 2 does?
Yeah.
Because people get.
We're going to do a press release.
Okay.
Good. I'll do a press release. It's Wednesday, so it probably won't get in the newspapers this week.
If you get it to us Sentinel today, then it'll go into this week's paper. Now the Trib, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, no, because they're publishing today. So.
Will that be effective today, though?
Yes, if we voted in, it would be, yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Other public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I live in Silver Cliff, in a forested residential area. We've noticed significant, I'm tinderbox drying of the vegetation. I know that we're real strong advocates up there about prevention. Once you get a fire, you saw the Junkins fire, how it just exploded with the wind. It's too late. So as a community and personally, I advocate prevention. And if we can prevent it by putting in certain restrictions, I'm all for that. And I thank you for bringing it up and taking a leadership role, even for the federal agencies.
Yeah. Thank you. I've got a question for you, Sheriff Byerly. And I want to say I appreciate getting these situational updates. That's nice. We've been hitting our desk the last 3 or 4 weeks.
And I know they get cumbersome to read, trust me. But
yeah, well, there's something in here I read and I have no idea what it means, and certainly I will probably be the only one that asks you this. What does the letters ERC mean? They rate those. I'm assuming that's on like a 75 scale. Do you know right off?
Give me a heads up. I have to see what it's in reference to.
Okay.
Tom, can you read the sentence?
It just says the 1,000-hour fuels are 9%, the ERCs are 71, which means that hits the 90th percentile.
So it's the estimated. Help me out, Sam.
You just be patient because she's hammering away on Google.
ERC could mean anything.
I'm looking too.
Yeah.
In our world of abbreviations,
yeah.
We think we have a bunch, and then you get in the fire world. And the fire world does not believe that you even speak in full sentences.
Right.
It's all nomenclatures.
Energy release component.
There you go. Energy release. Basically, it's a fuel load.
Yeah. How dry the fuel is.
And that the amount of fuel and the heat that it's going to produce when it, because obviously drier fuel burns hotter, faster.
Right.
So that's what that is.
Yeah. Okay. I could have looked it up. Sorry. All right, thank you. Any further public comment? Yes, sir.
This comes up every time we talk about fire. Just up the highway here at Smith Creek is a tinderbox, and it's completely shrouded from the road. We get lots of calls from the volunteer fire department. We're going up there. We're looking for smoke.
Just had one a couple days ago.
Yeah, we have to drive through that whole maze of little trails and roads. A lot of kids come up to have their little campfires and stuff up there, and we're always trying to run them out of there. But if that ever gets going, it'd wipe us all out right through here.
Yeah.
That thing needs to be shut down. Now, I see they put a gate across the Lewis Creek Trail.
They did.
And they can do the same thing there, just dump some rocks or something over that opening.
Who's the they?
So it's the forest. It's the forest. See, and so this is a challenge we have, and I mean, Dale, I'm sorry, Mr. Volsky is, you don't mind if I call you Dale right now?
I've been called far worse than that.
Dale's got a great point, and a lot of the folks that live down here, they understand. If you've been around, Smith Creek, that place, there's so much fuel in there, and it is forest, right? And it's forest lands. So it doesn't, even though it's 10 yards off the road, it's forest lands, right. And so we can't enforce that they can't have a fire. Now, without going into too much detail, we go in there and we highly discourage people to burn and to put their fires out, or we highly encourage them to put their fires out, and we have some conversations with them. But when the rubber meets the road, we can't say, listen, you have to put the fire out.
Because they're on Forest Service.
Because they're on Forest Service ground. Now, what we do is I'll be on the phone today with Dennis Page and with Paul Crispin. We talk about that we're in restrictions now and we need some help, and it does, the Forest Service federal organization, and there's a lot of wheels before one little bitty decision gets made. And so they try to meet the same restrictions that we do, again, for that contiguous, but I can't promise you what's going to happen. They know it's dangerous.
So you're going to call them and tell them we're doing this?
Yeah, I will let them know. But see, the thing is right, so the Forest Service has a plan in place that they set in 1991 that they were going to have a burn day today in Chaffee County. And so it's not it's not locally controlled. So when the Forest Service goes into their district fire restrictions, then it would affect Chaffee County and Custer County, all these big areas, this huge regional area. Well, if they have a fire plan set in place and they're planning on doing controlled burns in Chaffee County today, well, they don't care what the conditions are everywhere else. They don't want to go into fire restrictions because then they can't burn up there in Chaffee County. And so it has this huge ripple effect, and that's why you don't see the Forest Service going into fire restrictions unless it's super bad. And I mean, it takes an act of God, because then all of these fire plans change. And again, you know, like I said, this fire plan was, I was being facetious, but this plan was probably set 18 months ago that they were planning on burning today in that area. So.
Okay. All right, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Road and Bridge would need to be notified too.
Yeah.
They post signs.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I grew up in that area that you're talking about, and you know, there's a strip in there that is county, and it's tight. It is like, you know, county, and you walk 1 foot in the Forest Service. But you know, I think given last year, you know, those folks would be open to conversation on really, you know, watching out and accepting some restrictions. Because, you know, when I grew up there, we were always concerned. We were always looking up that hill. And I think fire is more prevalent now, and people are more aware of the danger. So, you know, and I'd be willing to volunteer to go and talk to, you know, because there's still some neighbors I had there that are, you know, their folks are dead, but, you know.
Well, we don't really get, it's not really the local folks aren't the ones burning. It's, like Dale said, the folks that come from Pueblo or whatever, and they're coming right in there, and then they're going, they're pulling off or dropping right down, you know, as you start a hard scrabble, they're dropping down in there, and they're using the 2-track to get back in there, and that's where the problem comes in. And I think we could do some work with some signage, even if we had some realtor signs, you know, and took and put some, you know, it's a generic piece of plywood on there that says, no, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said something like
Good.
that.
Any further comments from the public?
But signage is a key.
Stage 2 involves shooting.
Good point. Stage 2 involves shooting.
So yes and no, but mostly no. Mostly no. As long as you're, you know, now if your target shooting and there's a bunch of grass, but if you're in a somewhat developed area where the brass isn't going to catch the grass on fire, then it isn't lit. It comes back to that responsibility thing.
And stage 2, I'm assuming for Custer County, includes our military base not using live ordnance down there. They're not going to have anything left to burn down there if they keep after it. Yes, ma'am.
Just a clarification. So if the Forest Service has a plan that they set 30 years ago to burn X amount.
I was being facetious,
Well,
Cindy, but I mean,
even though they have a
sometime.
plan, do they not take safety into consideration?
I cannot speak for the Forest Service.
Government entity. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we will proceed to vote. All in favor of the motion, gentlemen, that states that we move immediately into a stage 2 fire ban for Custer County, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Gentlemen, with your permission, I'd like to take about a 3 or 4 minute recess.
We'll give you 5, Jackie.
Just things around your residences, and then it goes a little beyond that.
If you can send that to Chuck Capilito downstairs in IT, that'd be great.
Will do.
You're absolutely. That's why I put down the
Jackie.
after a meeting,
When you first sit down, after you're here for a
We need to deal with this resolution before we move to you. So I'll do that real quick. Fireman.
Yeah, we do. So,
It'll just
you
take a
might not
second.
have a wife. Clint might not have a wife.
Oh, you're not paid to be here today?
Oh, that was cold. That was cold.
I was remiss, thank you, counselors, for reminding me we do need to let the record reflect about a resolution concerning the fire ban. So with that, I would also move that the Board of County Commissioners sign resolution number 18-04, resolution imposing Stage 2 fire ban restrictions for Custer County. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of Custer County, a political subdivision of the state of Colorado, has been asked by the Custer County Sheriff to take certain steps to protect the safety and general welfare of the citizens of the county from risk of wildfires. And whereas County Ordinance 15-02, adopted June 20, 2015, grants the Board of County Commissioners the authority to impose by resolution Stage 1, 2, or 3 restrictions on open burning for all or portions of Custer County based upon a finding that the danger of forest fires or grass fires occurring in the county is high. And whereas such a resolution must be based upon competent evidence, and whereas a recommendation for imposition of such restrictions from the Custer County Sheriff, acting in his statutory capacity, excuse me, as the fire warden for the county, is considered to be competent evidence, and whereas the sheriff has made such a recommendation on this date and the Board of County Commissioners is satisfied that the evidence is sufficient to impose fire restrictions, now therefore be it resolved that effective and immediately Stage 2 fire restrictions are hereby imposed for all of Custer County and shall remain in effect for a period of 30 days unless further extended by the subsequent resolution. This fire ban shall be publicized in accordance with Part 1, Section 8 of Custer Ordinance 15-02, done this 21st of March 2018, and their signatory lines for the 3 commissioners and an attestation line for Kelly Camper as the clerk and the recorder for Custer County. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 18-04 entitled A Resolution Imposing Stage 2 Fire Restrictions for Custer County. Further discussion?
Just a question. Hey, Clint.
Yes.
It says, unless further extended, it could also, or should it also say, unless it needs to be rescinded early because of whatever. Does that matter?
I don't think so. That's in the ordinance that it can be lifted.
It can be lifted whenever we feel necessary.
Yes.
Okay.
Good point. Thank you, sir. Yep. Any other discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Sorry.
want to
I
ask the
will
public?
also. Yeah, let's back up because before we know it, I'll be in hot water again. Prior to taking the vote on the resolution, the board would hear further public comment. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Let the record show that resolution 18-04 has been approved. And thank you, Counselor, for bringing that to my attention that we failed to do that.
That's the letter of support. The other one.
No. Oh.
Well, it's okay. Just save
Yeah.
that for later.
Sorry. Thank you, ma'am.
Sign both, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
It just said sign here, so.
They don't approve it.
Yeah, could
It
be.
only has one signature. You don't do
Which one?
it.
The one you accidentally signed.
Has 3 signatures. Yeah.
You're the only one that signed it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's not legal yet.
It's not legal yet.
Thank you, sir. I just looked at that being a very official looking paper. Sorry. Okay, thank you. Next up on the agenda are zoning fee discussion concerning adjusting the fees.
Okay,
Mrs.
so
Hobbs.
you got the old one from last meeting, correct? The one, if not, I got a copy of our zoning fees as they stand. And then Elizabeth did an update of the zoning fees from other counties. If you notice, most of them have building codes, so that's why you'll see it's, no, you can't have 2.
Why'd you give me 2?
Is this, this is the old one.
So if they have a building code, it's rated, on how much your garage costs, and that's how they figure it. That's our fees. When the economy was hopping in Custer County, the fees were 45 cents a square foot. Then when the economy slowed down, the commissioners and the zoning got together and decided that we would lower the rate to 35 cents a square foot. I would recommend that if you want to up the fee, I would have no problem with going with 45 cents a square foot. Reason why I'm saying that, I think it would help with offset the zoning costs of even operating. And still at 45 cents a square foot, that's pretty decent. And that's what it used to be. So I would recommend that you go up 10 cents on everything. So that the dwelling and the accessory buildings would be 45 cents a square foot, and the accessory buildings open would be 35.
Any other suggested changes on this
I don't
fee
like
schedule?
messing around with when it comes to the health part, the septics, the septic repair, and the septic modification. I know that you'll look across the board and some of the septic systems in other places are $500, and we're only, we're at $205. We charge $225, but remember, $20 of that has to go to the state quarterly. Weld County is $850, Chaffee is $300, and then you got Alamosa at $275. So we're right in that ballpark. I hate to mess with septic systems because when you have a failing septic system, I'd rather see you repair it, and I don't want the fee to be so absorbent that you say, I'm not repairing this, or I'm not getting a permit, because that's when you're dealing with a health issue. I think, though, that like an overhide, most of our fees are lot line adjustments and stuff are $300. And then, like, if you want an SUP, which is a special use permit, it's $500. And if you notice, a lot of the places are, they're a little bit more expensive. They're like $700, $800, $600, but we're almost like right in the ballpark. So basically, those are the only two recommendations I have, the 45 and the 35.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Has the Planning and Zoning Committee done anything on this? Is there a recommendation from them, or is this just from
No,
your
that's out
office?
of their, we don't discuss that with them.
The planning?
This is county commissioner and...
County commissioners.
Okay.
If they make the change, what date would you recommend it be effective?
April 1st. After you get your building permit.
So you're thinking that anything brand new that comes in April 1st forward would have a new fee, and anything that has started with you to that point would stick with this? There'll be no adjustments to someone who's already started the process?
No. It'll only be on new permits that come in after April 1st. And like there's some, like one of the gentlemen that gave me the dirty down at the end, right there, he's already in the works, so he'd only get a 35-cent fee.
How long ago was the old 45 cent in place?
We changed it in probably 2010 when the economy started biffing it. But I've been noticing that 2008 maybe. I noticed that we're not keeping up. We got
Inflation?
Inflation, we got to raise it up because we're not keeping up with the cost that's going on in the office.
do you have any estimate on how much this 10-cent increase on an annual basis would be? I mean, just a guess. Are we talking about $1,000, $10,000?
Oh, over 10 probably.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty steep.
I would move that the Custer County Board of Commissioners approve a 10-cent fee increase for zoning permits.
I'll second it so we can discuss it.
Been moved and seconded that the county increase the zoning permits by 10 cents a square foot. Discussion.
Okay, so that's bigger than the 25% increase. Pretty significant.
Correct. We're just going back to what we began with.
Right. But you're confident, Jackie, that, this, it's, I deal with a lot of people that are trying to build things, as you know. And a lot of people, even balk at what we have, and, it's tough. And the 25%, now, if you take 1,000 square feet times 10 cents, how many dollars is that? That's a lot of dinners.
Oh, yes, I agree. But I do believe that what we're seeing now is that our other fees compared to other counties are still so way low.
Yeah, that's true.
And so if they look, because I have a lot of people come in and say, I looked at this county and I looked at this county and your fees are cheap. And then if you look at the other fees that we have, like the septic and the special use permit, we're dirt cheap.
Mm-hmm. Right. Did you think about a graduated step up, maybe? I'm just trying to avoid sticker shock.
No, I don't
here.
like to soften the blow. I think
Boom!
Well,
We got a question out there.
I certainly, gentlemen, have some concerns. I made the motion for the exact reason that Bill intimated, and that was we could have discussion about this in a formal manner. I'll get with you, sir. But there's no doubt we're all going to have several shots fired at us for increasing fees. I get that. I struggle sometimes with justifying any increase in a fee, whether it's out of your office or anywhere else, and saying that, comparing that to surrounding counties, only because I hear this. I don't live in a surrounding county. I live here. It doesn't matter what they're charging in Huerfano County. It matters what you're charging me when I go to build a house. And I understand that frustration. I get that. If we feel like this is a fiscally responsible move in our county, I'm good with that. I'd put a whole lot more emphasis on that than what I would with surrounding counties, because our people are not living in surrounding counties.
You sort of implied this, Jackie, point he's bringing up. You said our operating costs. If we're losing money, then that's a different issue.
it is. And
So
we're
you
not
need to understand that.
And also remember, these fees go into the general budget.
Right.
So it also helps all the other offices get supplies and stuff. So it's spread out. And if you look at my bottom line of my budget, what's going out of that in my budget's hardly nothing. But it's the insurance and the wages, because you've got some people up here really high that we need to offset it. And I really don't believe 45 cents a square foot is going to break anyone.
What would you guess the average square foot of a house, new residents in Custer County, from this point forward would be?
It's about 1,200 to 1,400.
Pretty small.
So we're looking at $120.
People aren't building big homes because they're hard to sell.
Mr. Prince.
I just need a clarification on what it is you're requesting. We have 3 square foot prices: residential 35 cents a foot, accessory enclosed 35 a foot, and accessory open 25 a foot. Are you suggesting a 10-cent increase on all 3 of those?
Yes, sir.
And none of the others?
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure I was with you.
and that's why I worded the motion the way I did, is just a square footage increase. It doesn't apply, nothing else is price-based per square footage. I guess my other question would be, Mrs. Hobby, do you see this having any impact on post-construction fees, or are you going to leave those, are you proposing to leave those as they are?
No, everything is, if you build without a permit, then you're charged 3 times the amount. So
it would go up accordingly?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Jackie, open structures like
it's like a
chicken,
capping shed.
right, or chicken coop?
Well, no, it'd be open on at least one
The yard
side.
that you're enclosed and maybe.
So it just has to be one side of your building has to stay open. And then like a calving shed, and that's 35 cents.
Or a run-in shed for horses.
Isn't it a minimum of 100 square feet too? Yeah.
So, what's precipitating this besides the economy's better and building is up in the county? At least I'm hearing that from most of the realtors I speak with, that things are moving forward. Are we losing money?
No. So every year, the county commissioners and the zoning department have to look at the fee schedule. And we probably should have raised it years ago. Because we dumped it down 10 cents when we thought we could help promote more building and economy in Custer County. And it helped a little bit, but not like what you would think. But it helped at the time because the economy had biffed it. But now, we probably should have raised it, we should have probably raised it last year and maybe even possibly the year before, back up to what we were.
I'm assuming your office also fields a lot of responses to the fees currently or the proposed fees.
Yes, because they believe that it's me, and I blame it on you guys.
That's why I'm trying to shift the blame back to where it really
That's why we want to
belongs.
only raise it a nickel a foot, Jackie.
Yeah, I think if we're talking about let's say a 1,500 square foot home, we're talking about a $150 increase in fees on just the permitting for zoning. And I don't know that everybody heard, but Mrs. Gady brought up the question of that it pertains to a structure that's greater than 100 square feet. Is that correct? And I see that is in here on this document for decks and balconies, but I do not see that for residential or accessory buildings greater than 100 feet.
No, it's in the zoning resolution.
Yeah, it is 100.
Do you give this to your client or customers when they come in?
No, most of the builders know what the fee is.
Okay.
But it's
Homeowners, I'm
online.
talking about
It's
homeowners.
available and it's posted.
If a homeowner came in and pulled a
Yeah,
permit,
it's in our homeowners
Okay,
book and it's
perfect.
posted.
Plus, they come in for a permit and they're going to ask you how much, and you're going to tell them.
further discussion, gentlemen?
Yeah,
Yes.
I do. I'm having some angst with this because I'm seeing it for the first time. I don't know if you sent it out there. I don't know if I missed any communication we've had, but I'm seeing it for the first time. I think it would be appropriate to have some of the builders have an opportunity to comment on this before any decision is made. And maybe any prospective homeowners who are looking to get a permit. I'd like to hear what they have to say before I approve this. This is, on a percentage basis, it's a significant increase. I agree with Commissioner Kanda that, just raising fees because the economy is better, is that right or not? I don't know.
It wasn't
And I'd
just
really
because
like
the
to hear
economy's
from-
better. It was to offset what's going out of the office on a monthly basis and stuff to even it out.
Okay, further discussion, gentlemen?
So my suggestion would be table it and let's invite some of the builders in to have their conversation, and then we can bring the question back up.
Before you do that, maybe it's just more the builder. I think Jackie needs, I happen to agree, it's probably worth looking into. We need to understand it. But because Jay's got a good point here, it's the first time we've really had a good conversation about it. And it is a significant impact, or increase, but I'm not against increasing it. But for the reasons Tom said, is it the right thing for the county, not with, standing everybody else's feet are so much greater. It is a draw into the county, it's nice to have the ability to market our fees are not all that high, come on in and build here. And because in the end, we get more money for the tax improvements that the lot make anyway. And if we can figure out a way to offset, if you do have a problem with operating, which you probably do, we need to understand that a little more, Jack.
In your opinion, as our planning and zoning officer, do you think this 10 cent per square foot increase will have a negative net effect on number of permits pulled?
No. We have 3 or 4 builders in Custer County that are frequent flyers into the office and have asked them, and this is their response. It doesn't matter, the customer pays for it.
Yeah, that was going to be my response to Commissioner.
It's the people paying the money that would have a comment.
Right, and my comment really was, and if you've had that discussion with them, I'll withdraw my concern. I just didn't want to sprung it on the builders without them having an opportunity to discuss it. That's what I'm concerned about.
I tell my builders everything. Yeah. That's going on, because I want them to be, I don't want them to be sprung on. So most of my frequent flyers that I see on a monthly basis, I let them know.
Yeah, my response, Commissioner Prince, was going to be, and I think Jackie brought it up, that certainly with no disrespect intended, I don't see this as a builder issue. That money's passed through it.
Right.
They don't.
How about you citizens?
I really, well, hold on, sir. May I finish? Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt.
I don't see that. The only way it would affect the builders is if, and I asked you about that, would the increase slow down our building rates? You indicated no. If that's then that's your opinion. I respect that, but I don't think that builder input is necessary on this because it's a pass-through for them. That's my personal opinion. So, go ahead, sir. We're still in discussion. We've got plenty of time.
And I respect what you're saying completely. My concern would be if the builders came and said, however, even though I'm passing that fee on, if I'll have an estimated percentage of people who will not build because of the fee, then it does affect not only the builder, but it affects the county also. Yeah. Jackie knows what she's talking about. I've dealt with her for a long time, and if she feels it's not going to be a detriment, and she's spoken with the builders, that was the concerns I've had. I want to make sure the public has an opportunity, but I trust that you have had that discussion. I'm okay with that. Yeah. I mean, I can live with it. Especially since, my problem is when you show me the other counties, it says per valuation. It really doesn't show me. I mean, I don't know where we fit in there. Right. I feel a little bit differently than you do, Mr. Chairman, in terms of if people are looking to build, I'm sure they're looking at multiple locations, and certainly the cost of building would come into play as to whether I build in Weld County or I build in Custer County, Fremont County. The cost of living. So I'm concerned about that. So I would think it would be appropriate for...
And then you always got to keep in mind, too, that most of these people have owned these parcels of property for years. And they've got the well in maybe 5 years ago, they've got the septic in 4 years ago, and now they're ready to build their house. And most of my contractors that have come in say they have 5 or 6 houses in the works, and that it's because they're retiring or something. But I always get a kick out of it because Yuma County, it doesn't matter what you do, it's $20.
Yes, so that.
Build a big house, $20. Build a barn, $20. But maybe they have some better comments.
Yeah, well, I've lived in Yuma County. There's a reason that it's $20.
Please come and live here.
Guys, I'm okay. I just was concerned that we would do some without the public type of input into it. That was the only thing I'm concerned about.
Well, and I get your original concern about the builders if it affects the consumer, the end consumer coming or not, I concur with that. Don't have a problem with that. Other discussion,
Let
gentlemen?
me ask one question to her, too. You have your finger on the pulse of all this. Remodeling is a lot of, what percentage of your,
Nothing.
you're not getting much on
We
that?
don't
Because
get anything on remodels.
if you expand, though.
If you expand and add to the footprint, yes.
That's right, and so.
But there's a lot of times that these homes will have an unfinished basement. And unless somebody tells us, we have no clue, but it doesn't give the zoning office any more money.
Right.
Because you've already paid for that square
Right.
footage. It only will give the property taxes.
I'm just wondering if it gives a person a reason to get a tape measure that's 1.5 feet bigger per foot measurement.
Yeah.
I only have 100 square feet, but I've got a bar and a grill in there too.
Yeah, so that's the deal too, because it's a one-time, but see, we charge for all floor space. So if you have a loft in your house and you just put boxes in the loft, you have to pay for that square footage.
Do you have to count it or not?
So it's not a footprint per square footage, it's just square footage of your structure. If it's 3 stories, it's obviously going to be 3 times as many square feet. What about, is an attached garage considered part of the residence?
Yes,
And a detached garage is an accessory building?
yes. On our permit system, we have dwelling with attached garage. Because they need to know the difference upstairs, because you're taxed differently. If your garage is attached to your house, it's more than if it was detached.
Okay. And this is off topic a little bit. If somebody, and as Bill mentioned, somebody comes in and does a remodel on the inside of their house, how do we track that for property tax?
Tattletales.
We don't have any way formally to track, so I could go in and remodel.
Honesty, a lot of people are honest, so you got to give people credit. A lot of people are very honest. They'll come in and say, hey, I had an unfinished basement, I finished it. And we'll say, go upstairs. And then also remember that your septic is based on usage, and usage comes from bedrooms. So if you have an unfinished basement and you put a bedroom in there, you better check and make sure that your septic is sized for that. So usually, but people are basically honest. They come in.
And when you say go upstairs, you mean to the assessor's office?
And then you'll catch it eventually if somebody sells the house. If they want to make a 3-bedroom out of it, they want more money, they're going to have to confess.
It's amazing how many we catch in the real estate.
But currently, somebody could convert a single-car attached garage to living space. We would not track that as a county.
Correct. But let's see, last week I think I took 5 complaint calls, and it was neighbors telling on neighbors.
See, we don't want to have you turn into a homeowner.
No, so.
Further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none. Public comment? Yes, sir.
Well, I want to first off say Jackie's been incredibly helpful with the building process. I am one of those builders that, or a homeowner getting ready to be builder. I'm going to put a hangar out at our airport. I signed the contract on steel yesterday. Monday it goes up 10%, and the week after that it's going to go up 30%. Your average car price, if the tariff goes through, is going to go up between $500, and pickup trucks are maybe $1,000 to $3,000 going up. Lumber is going to go up because Canada is going to tariff it. Now I got to rephrase this. The concrete in this county is one of the highest in the state. We add another 10 cents to the square footage. My square footage is fairly small. This is not a big hangar. Every time I turn around, I'm seeing an increase. This economy is, in my opinion, this economy is about ready to fracture, and you're not going to see as many people building. And you certainly aren't going to see as many people building if the price keeps increasing. In my opinion.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. And your personally, I'm just asking you a personal question, you're looking at an accessory building, correct? You're talking about your
By
hangar?
definition, yes,
Yeah.
it would be an accessory.
Not attached to your house.
No, and but it's on county property. I lease the space from the
Right.
county.
Yep.
And by the way, that hangar becomes county property 20 years after the lease if the county doesn't want to renew and/or I don't want to renew, and that building has to be removed. So I'm investing tens of thousands of dollars into a building along with the building costs that I may never recoup. But that's not this issue.
Yeah, part of me wants to respond by saying I certainly understand what you're saying. I hope you understand we also feel that angst here. We're struggling just bam, dropping the gavel on it and moving on. However, if we do not pay attention to our fiscal viability, someday we may not have an office stamping plans because we went out of business as a county. I don't think 10 cents a square foot is going to dictate whether or not we file bankruptcy in the next few years, but there certainly has been counties that have done that. It's easy for us to sit here and say, let's just charge them some more money. It's great. But I do believe that if this county is going to have and do anything different than we are right now, somebody's going to have to pay for that. If I think as the economy grows, the pressure is going to be increased on our planning and zoning office. How are we going to pay for that? That's one of my questions. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, in accordance with that, the citizens that are not using that office are now funding that office. And that's okay, but if like Jackie said, there's, say, $10,000 more that would go into the general fund that would help her office be self-sustaining, because that would be the goal, is to have that office self-sustaining, then the people who aren't building aren't subsidizing the building. The customers that use it are the people that should be funding it.
Right.
Not, now that may not be willy-nilly, let's raise it $1, but we have to be cognizant of who's using the office, and it's coming out of our pockets now.
Any shortfall, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't talk to a lot of people that are moving here to build a house. I have had some conversations, part of them through the tourism, part of them through economic development. I do hear people say, we looked all over the country, we looked all over the Colorado, and we came to Custer County. I have never heard anybody say, we decided on Custer County because your zoning permits are cheaper than anybody else. I think we've got 50-some peaks that outrank our zoning fees. That scenic beauty, that pace of life. I mean, I've heard it for 2 months from tourism and economic development. There's a reason people move to Custer County, and we want to preserve that. I do not believe raising these 10 cents is going to chase people off and have them build in Fremont.
Let's raise it $1 then.
But I do believe $1 may have an impact. I say I don't believe 10 cents would have a direct impact. That is my personal opinion. Yes, sir.
If I was coming out here to build a house, it's going to cost me $150,000, $200,000. What's $150?
Extra.
That's what
on
you're
top
talking
of
about.
Yeah, $120 or $50 more. Yeah.
That's peanuts.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Other public comment?
I want to respond to Jack's a
Okay.
little bit in the other comment. I have heard, Tom, people say, I don't want to move to Fremont County because, good grief, the fees there, you ought to look at it,
Zoning fees?
Yes, and the building fee.
Oh, well, okay.
And the fees, because it is significant. And they enforce it each year. We are a little more lenient on, once you got a permit, it takes time to build it, and you're not going to get hammered with a re-fee. Down in Fremont they do. So it does have an impact. We are fragile. Let me give you an example. Just this recent school bond issue. We committed the county taxpayers to, what was it, $1.65 per 100,000 bucks of evaluation, whatever it was, for 20 years. That's the landowners. The business didn't include the small business people that are skimming along. The impact was like $3,000 a year difference. There's a family of 3 or 4, depending on whatever that little bit of business is. It can break you, and so we got to be careful on how we work the fragility of our economy against the issues that we have to maintain the business. So that's why I agree with Jay when he brought up the point. It's kind of this is a quick decision. I have emotions too, and I don't want to pay it. But then what's $100? Well, it depends on who you are, what $100 is. How meaningful it is. And Jackie did point out we're not building $300,000 houses so much as we are building, $100,000 houses or whatever they turn them out to be. So it's just a discussion. I'm just pointing out that you got to be careful.
You got to remember that the people that are coming to Custer County are people that 100.5 is not a big issue to
right.
them. Also, you got to remember that I do not have what I call in Custer County the working poor building homes. I have people that are selling their homes in California for $600,000 plus and building a $150,000, $200,000 home.
So the point here, you have 2 ways of raising the money to live here. You raise for you to survive in your office is what I'm referring to. You can raise fees, or you get cash flow by getting more volume. And so hopefully with the other things we're paying for here, like tourism and economic developments, come in here to build your business, those kinds of things also help maintain that and pay. And actually, it's good to have an office, even if we have to subsidize it from other sources in order to work as a team. It's a whole picture. It's not just one organization or one department of the county that we have to consider on any tax issue. See, so just a thought. And that's why it's good to have the discussion, and maybe that's why it was good maybe to table it and do more discussion, or maybe that's just wasting time, and that's something we can decide as we think here.
Jackie, can I ask you a question? And you gave us some figures. Do you have the building permit fee for Fremont County? Do you know what that is?
No, because they have building codes. So let's say that I'm going to build a garage. I go in there and I say my garage is going to cost in materials $50,000. Then they have a formula that they figure out. Then they ask me how much the labor's going to be. I say I'm going to build it myself. Well, what are you worth an hour? And they have a fee for that. So that's how it's based on.
So it's figured completely different.
I can give you a sample, Tom, because I got an example. They came to me, just raised it. But so a $200,000 house cost them about $2,000 for a fee. And that has to be renewed each year.
Right. But that is certainly not
that's not the same. It's
an
not
accurate
comparing
comparison.
apples and apples.
Thank you. That's my point. I believe it. I hear it as well, that Fremont County is very expensive to build in. But I would maintain that it is not due to their building permit fee as we're
Just
talking
like
about.
this one.
It's a whole different computation. Would you agree with that?
Correct.
Yes, thank you. Further comment from the public? Yes, ma'am.
Once it's raised, if it is to be raised, how hard is it to lower it if needed?
Same discussion.
It's been done before.
We'll go through it.
I mean,
It would be.
I mean, is this engraved in stone for the next 20 years?
No,
Because
it
the tariffs
goes
do go
every
through.
year.
Yeah.
You have
So
to worry about
kind of a living
I
document.
get the tariff thing, but that's a big if too. So, if they do go through and building is back down to nil, how hard is it to go back down 10 cents?
Well, it's
Thank
a
you.
yearly
Depends on the
review.
situation.
Pardon me?
It's the yearly review.
That's correct. Yes, sir. Right behind you. Yes, sir.
I gotta disagree with Bill there on his summation of this money agreeing with a fund for the school, which is a yearly thing that goes on and on. This is a one-time fee.
It's true. Yeah, it's a good point.
That's all it is. one-time?
We don't assess that annually.
No, all my point was is we already impact people all the time. So you got to worry about pecking away at it.
Further public comment? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of increasing our building permit
Was there a table
fee?
motion first, or was that ever?
No.
It wasn't, was it?
No. He was asking if there was a motion to table this, and I said, no, there was not. I can reopen this for discussion if you care to. All in favor of increasing our zoning permits for residential and accessory buildings by 10 cents a square foot, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Nay.
Motion fails. We will not increase those square footage. Thank you, ma'am.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, if I may, my concerns are, and where I'm going to end up is, I would be happy to open this question again and take the vote again in the near future. My concerns are, and why I voted no, it seems like 10 cents is an arbitrary number. We really don't have a valuation here, and I understand why. I'm not criticizing why it just says valuation. I don't know how we compare. Is 10 cents the right amount? Maybe it should be 20. Maybe it should be 5. I don't know. And it seems like I didn't hear a specific reason to raise this other than we lowered it previously. It was at 45. The economy is a little better, and the gentleman over here feels it won't be, and I appreciate your comment. But I just don't have enough to bite into this. Why are we doing this 10 cents? I mean, we need more money. There's absolutely no doubt that this county could use 10 grand more a year or whatever the number would be. But I have a concern about, is this right? Is this the correct thing to do? So I would be happy to discuss this again in the future. I'm just not ready to agree to it today. And that's what my comment is.
Let me make a comment too, because I trust Jackie.
I do
I know
too.
she has good reasons to do it. But I don't know sort of the details. And I don't mind subsidizing what you need to do if there's some other way that money is put in there for whatever reason. So we need to understand a little bit what motivated you, Jackie, because I know the history. I know that it's been 10 years since we had an increase. And what we got to make sure is that people understand, and we do have our pulse on our bosses out there. They are our bosses. People are. And I want to make sure that we're just not, okay, the board sat in here, we heard a quick summary, and we voted to increase by 25%. Well, people can blow it out of proportion, and that's not a lot of money, I agree, in the big scheme of things. But it's a cumulative wounds that you can get pecked away at if we ignore being fiscally responsible and really understand what we're doing. That's all.
And I agree totally. It's just a fee that I bring up every year.
Yeah.
And so let's let me do some more, and maybe during budget time I'll say, hey, look at what's going on.
And we can not publicize it, but you can get the word out in your office as you're talking, and the people understand that, And the builders, it is a pass-through, so that, I'll shrug my shoulders and I'll let the $200,000 guy build his house, and it'll make a difference. So appreciate your patience. And I do trust what you're saying. We just need to put it in the context of the whole departments and how it impacts the county.
So let's just wait till October during budget time.
That's perfect time to do it.
Next item, a business airport special use permit update.
That's the part I'm interested in.
Was that why you're here, Dallas?
Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Well,
do you have a spokesperson?
He's the chair.
Mr. Chair.
Nonetheless, my question is, do you have a spokesperson?
We do.
Okay, good. Floor is yours.
I'll just sit here. I'm an old guy. We were asked to come and have a visit with the commissioners about possibly a name change or don't know what else to call it. But Clint brought up here a month or so ago, he's looking for a resolution on why we call the Airport Advisory Board. And we couldn't remember anything. We couldn't find anything. And so then we were looking at the other boards in the county, and we didn't find a 4-H advisory board. We didn't find a cattle, all those list of things that the commissioners approved in January. So then that brought up the question, should the name be changed? And if so, why? And so we had a split board on our last conversation and some questions as to why we would change the name to Airport Board. And I'll say right up front, I myself don't have a problem with it being either way. If our three leaders in the community would think it would be better called an Airport Board, then our question 2 is what changes if we go from an Airport Advisory Board to an Airport Board. We just kind of took on that advisory board because many airports in Colorado have them. And if you look in the book that I gave you, it doesn't say there's an advisory board or there's no control there. So our question would be today in this discussion is what would change if we change the name?
It's a good question.
And how that came about. If it's needed, fine. If not, then why would we be changing it? Had several board members say, well, is there a difference between what an airport board does and an airport advisory board? We didn't have an answer to that question. That was another question. So I throw the first part of it out to you guys, and then we carry on that conversation as to what we would need to do or what you would want to do.
I guess probably I brought this all up, and when I suggested to the commissioners and to our county attorney that we look at that, because I do not believe it is termed accurately or it is named accurately. If you as a group feel you want to be in an advisory capacity to the Board of Commissioners, then that says to me that would be an advisory committee. We would run the airport. You would give us advice how you think we should do that. That is my understanding of how an advisory committee would work. You would not have any authority. You would not have the same authority that you would if you were a board. If you are a board, which obviously by name you are, then you have certain responsibilities and functions that you can do without input from the Board of County Commissioners. This is my perspective anyway. Personally, I don't believe there'd be any difference in your level of responsibility about running the airport if you change the name to an advisory board. Personally, I do not believe the words advisory and board go together. That was my basic premise from day one, that I think it's a misnomer here. I wasn't looking to add more responsibility to you. I wasn't looking to usurp your responsibility back to the board. I have my personal feelings about how the airport group should function. My problem was with the moniker, the name itself. I do not think those two names belong together.
I had the same thing, Alan. You all are operating as a board, actually. You've got a budget. You guys deal with the public. You deal with the people fixing pumps. You deal with fuel and all that kind of thing. And the last thing we need is to every time we have a meeting to come in here and ask us to go spend 10 cents on a builder. We're looking at you guys doing the right thing, and you have that authority to operate in that budget that you establish, and you guys have been doing this. You've been keeping us up to speed, but maybe not. We don't need as much detail, unless you fall into some kind of an emergency or something like that. So I happen to agree with Tom. I think you are operating as a airport board.
Yeah,
I agree with you guys.
I would defer to council maybe if you have anything to add, sir.
So
Please.
when you asked the question, and there are lots of legal terms that get used loosely. An advisory committee is generally more temporary in nature. It's something that is created by the governing body, in this case, the Board of County Commissioners. We can appoint a committee to advise on certain things, but the airport board is a permanent board that is semi-autonomous. I mean, you have a lot of discretion to make decisions, as Bill said, without having to come to the board for a rubber stamp on everything. So you are actually functioning as a board now. I mean, the one different, that we have a weed advisory board, that's actually a creature of statute. The county has to have a weed advisory board, and even though, and that's the term that's used in the statute, even though it's called the board, it's strictly advisory in nature. It can only make recommendations, and the commissioners make all the final decisions on that. But the functions are different there too. Their job is to put together a weed management plan more than anything else, and then recommend that. So technically, I think the name should be just Airport Board. It would not change anything that you're doing. The bylaws you have can certainly remain the same unless maybe you want to change the name of the bylaws. But yes, sir.
And this is directed towards you. I am considering applying and being on the advisory board. If the name is changed to Airport Board, how does that place me in a litigious situation? Aircraft comes in, hooks up to the fuel pumps, the tank blows up, killing 3 people, 1 survives. They come back and they deep pocket the board, and the commissioners are also going to be brought into that lawsuit. How am I protected as a volunteer, because there are no paying positions? Robert, is that correct? There are no paying positions
I was going to say,
at the airport.
there better not be.
So my point is that we do live in a litigious society, and that individuals are going to seek me out and say, well, you're on the board, why did you let that fuel tank blow up?
Well, the county, we have county insurance. I'm not sure. Is there separate insurance that you have also through the board?
There's a liability policy.
Okay, and that's not going to change.
So that liability policy will cover me as a board member.
Sure is.
And I'm great with that. Before, my understanding was as an advisory board, the term advisory means, gentlemen, we hold it out to you, and guess what? When that tank does blow up, you 3 are responsible. You are paid individuals, and I'm sure you have a liability policy. So I think any board member on the airport will also need to be covered in the same fashion.
They are.
Yeah, it's a great point. Thank you. You have a good point.
There's several things that I don't think we've talked about as a board. One was the liability insurance. I don't remember talking very much about that. Said some of the board members were concerned about people suing us. We do have the insurance that, what do we call that, board of directors, B?
Mm-hmm.
What do we call that? B&O. We didn't have that. Didn't have that last year because of some confusion.
But you do now.
We do now. Mm-hmm. And there were some questions, it was paid out of this line, and it was last year's money, all that. But it's done.
Mm-hmm.
That's done. We need to move forward. The people on the airport board do a lot of things that a lot of people don't know that they're doing. Not only do we watch fuel, but we also cut grass. We're working on overlay for the runway. You guys have got all that. I think we've communicated till ad nauseum probably to you, which brings up the point of the money. Several commissioner boards back said if it's over $300, you got to ask us, and that would be wonderful to get rid of that. I don't know if we've talked about it or not. As long as we've got the budget, it's approved by you guys, we agreed, we follow that budget. it ought to stay.
That's the point.
You know, and instead of us coming, because we come in and we say, we need $310 to buy this. Okay, well, it's another month before it gets on the agenda to be approved because it is,
Right.
you know, a problem. And then, so before it's 90 days before we can fix
Good.
it.
It's a separate issue than the name, I think.
Not the
Yeah,
chairman.
it is. You were talking about two different issues here. Doesn't mean we couldn't address them, and I will get to public comment as soon as we are finished with discussion amongst the board. Do you have any other angst about this name change other than what you brought up, or is there some red flags?
Can I give some history of the change? I'm also on the airport.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
I'm Dan Green.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Dan. My apologies.
It used to be an airport authority. The chairman at the time was a very by-the-book guy. Did not sit well with the previous group. And so that's why it became an advisory board, because of, when there was an airport regulation, he was a retired Navy commander. When there was a regulation and it said do this now, there was no discussion with him. He would do it now. So that's how that came about. And whether we change the name or not, I guess we'll probably continue to be what we've been doing.
That was my perception, that I didn't think we were talking about any shift in operations. I just, to me, it would be like asking somebody, do you want to buy a car truck? The two words do not go together. That was it. And believe me, as councilor,
Didn't come up because there was a problem. It was just a
yeah, it's just, to me, it's a housekeeping thing, and I would go at the weed advisory board with the same zeal, because I don't believe they go together. It's statutory. But that doesn't keep me from going to Denver and raising all billy hell about it. That's the good thing about the process. Yes, sir.
Okay. I think we beat this to death. I think we all agree there's not going to be any change here. I think on the advice of council that the advisory portion of it probably ought to drop out. So I would just move that we rename the Airport Advisory Board to the Airport Board. Business as usual. The things that you brought up today are certainly valid. I just don't think they're in part of this discussion because it's a separate issue. But I think they're certainly worthy of discussion.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
So,
Hold on just a second, please. Point of clarification, would this name then be Silver West Airport Board?
Correct.
Does that sound reasonable?
That's
Because it's
fine.
not going to be Airport Board, I'm assuming we'll attach Silver West to it, or?
Well,
I don't know,
it's
other-
always been
other-
the Airport Advisory Board. I don't think it's,
Custer
has
County
it
I
been
think
the
generic's
Silver
better.
West Airport Advisory? I just want to take the word advisory out. Whatever was before, let's leave it the same. Let's take advisory out. Continue business as usual.
It's the Custer County Board, and it's the Silver West / Butler Field Airport.
Okay, so Custer
Yeah, so
County
it's actually a-
Airport Board.
Yeah, it's an
Thank
airport
you.
board for
Okay.
Custer County. It's like the other boards. You don't call it the Fair Board, Custer County Fair Board.
Right.
Other discussion, gentlemen?
Well, do we have a second?
I did.
Oh,
He
you?
did
Thank you.
second it,
I'm
yes.
sorry, I missed that.
Public comment? Yes, sir.
Okay, as present Secretary Treasurer of the Airport Board, changing the name doesn't bother me that much. We're at present in the process of looking at and making changes to the bylaws. Thank you. And it might be some help if we could get some specific direction possibly, because there's more changes to the bylaws if you change the name back to board. And so the one thing that the first county commissioner board laid on the airport board was that $350 maximum on any one purchase. Personally, I think that we should be custodians of our own budget. And when it comes time to order fuel, we have the money in the budget, we order the fuel, we don't have to wait a month and a half to come to a commissioner meeting to get approval to order that fuel, since it's always $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 on that. That would be a big help. Leeway on that.
It's beyond the scope of the question.
Other than that, through the years, I've requested, when I was chair of the board, 2 or 3 times from commissioner board, some more specific direction on.
Okay, which is really a different cat to skin here as far as dealing with your bylaws, is what I'm assuming you're getting at. So, public comment about the name change. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if you don't have an issue with the name change, then why don't we just keep it advisory board? Because every document that is associated with that airport now has to be changed.
Okay.
Okay, let me give you some background. Right now, their SUP needs to be redone. Okay, so the purpose of this application is to modify the existing special use permit recorded in Book 312, page 197, for the development of the Silver West Airport. Custer County Resolution 1211, December 28, 2012, dissolved the Airport Authority Board and made a motion to appoint an advisory board. So you'll need a resolution if you change the name on January 8, 2013. So what I'm saying, if the name really doesn't matter, and we got most of these documents already done, not saying that I don't get paid by the hour, don't get me wrong. Why are we changing it?
Okay, I certainly did not say I didn't have a problem with the name change. That's why I brought it up in the first place. I do have a problem with the name. Counselor, would you agree with her assessment that this has to be done by resolution?
I am not.
There was never a resolution that created, that doesn't really create an airport advisory board.
Resolution 1211 changed the name from...
Right. Authority board to advisory board.
If that's how that resolution, but it never really established what the airport advisory board was supposed to do. It just changed the name. Yeah. But since it's done by resolution, I suppose there should be another resolution to officially change the name. If that's what's going to happen here, then it should be done by resolution. It can be a motion today to do it, but then
get the resolution.
You need to direct me to prepare a resolution.
So what do we have on the floor? Just a name?
The motion is to change the name. Are you comfortable with adding the words by resolution to your motion?
Sure.
Then the motion would be to change the name by resolution from Custer County Airport Advisory Board to Custer County Airport Board.
/ Butlerfield?
No. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Council will provide us a resolution, and we will meet again March 30.
And you guys can go work your bylaws.
Alan, comes about 4 things.
We can do that.
May I finish what I'm saying, please, gentlemen? At the March 30th meeting, we will sign that resolution. Council will prepare that for us. We'll sign that and make sure you get a copy of that.
Okay, I will be out of town.
Okay. If somebody can, we can mail it to you or whatever, but the resolution will be done next meeting. Go ahead.
Can I just suggest the 2 items that were brought that were really off topic at the time? Please bring that back to the board. Ask Brenda at a future BOCC meeting to be on the agenda to discuss those items, because I think they're very important, need to be discussed. They were just outside the purview of what we're discussing today.
Make your own recommendations to us.
Yeah, we need to move on. I'll take a couple more comments and we're pressing on. Yes, sir.
So officially, it's going to be Custer County Airport Board.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what I'll put in the bylaws.
I'm leaving. Thank you for your...
Thank you. Appreciate you coming down. Next item of business. Yes, sir.
One comment to everybody to report, and I talked with Rich just a while ago about it, and that is when the fire district gets their new fire truck that it looks like they're going to get, and that comes about, the training officer and the fire chief has said, because we were concerned about getting the truck out if there was a fire, if you're not able to start it or anything, or we have a graduation party out there like we've got scheduled for this young lady that's going to get an appointment,
Right.
etc. Anyway, they're going to teach us to move the truck in and out of the building.
Correct.
Okay, that's coming. Which brought up the IGA, the Intergovernmental Agreement. That may be on that agreement. I haven't seen it. That we can't touch it, so we might have to change it. You guys have seen it.
I don't believe it's addressed specifically.
No, it just says it's going to happen.
Okay, because they're going to show us how to start, also help watch it, maintain it.
And as far as the name change goes, gentlemen, if you can assist us, you come across a document that, such as the IGA, and bring it to our attention, we'll get that remediated.
I see where you spent the dollar to make it legal.
We got the dollar.
$1.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm through.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on. The next item of business is the weed board membership discussion. I would relinquish the floor to Miss Oth to lead that discussion if you so care to do. Want to bring us up to speed if you want to come up so that the audience can hear you as well as the commissioners. We'd appreciate that. Thank you, guys.
You guys are going to bail now, huh?
We're going to leave because we don't know anything about weed.
You got a lot of weed out there.
As long as you do so quietly, Miss Oth, you may please come forward.
Is it okay if I sit here?
Yes. Yeah, typically we do welcome our.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. You don't know that. We typically try to welcome our speakers and guests.
They're on the airport board.
Good morning. Yeah, unless they're that motley crew.
Okay. So, weed advisory board, as it's currently called. Yes. I'm not exactly sure what we should discuss today about that. I know that, Tom, you and I discussed previous members of that board and that we were getting in contact with them to gauge their interests of moving forward as members of the board and who we needed to replace, members from other counties and from CDOT. I know we were trying to get a hold of them because those have changed as well. So I have not put out a formal request to set up a meeting with all of these individuals because I was trying to identify all the players first. And I had a meeting yesterday in Salida with two people who I thought might be able to help us with this. One was Kate Spinelli, the stewardship director of the San Isabel Land Protection Trust, and the other was Caleb Malone, who was the weed manager / supervisor for Chaffee County. So I talked to them at great length yesterday just to get some advice, see where we need to be, see how much help they were willing to provide us with. Mostly Kayla, because of her position. Two great, interesting people. Now, Kayla let me know that she had some issues last year with finding a point of contact in Custer. So there was, from my understanding, and forgive me if any of this information, if what you know is different from what I'm sharing, please correct me. But my understanding from speaking with her was there was a $10,000 grant last year available to our county to use for weed management, and that we lost that money. It was not used because there was no point of contact to accept that money.
Wow.
One of the problems with that, in addition to, was that there was the weed board that did exist. She had made several requests to them to submit any receipts that they had for any applications to private or county property, and she never received any of that, so she couldn't offer any reimbursements. Fremont and Chaffee County felt like they were burned a little bit by Custer when they were trying to offer assistance, so they did not apply for the grant for us this year. So there is no money this year for Custer County from any grant funds from the state. What did exist in the past, where there was a previous cost share program that was funded with that grant money that now no longer exists, and there is no way for us to get any of that grant money for this year. In addition, the grant functionality has changed for this year, whereas they were doing the cost share programs, that has changed where they're getting a little bit more strict. They don't want that divided up between counties. They want every single county to have their own grant and be awarded. And she said she is absolutely willing to help us through that, but we're looking at applying for that grant money or getting everything together in October, and that paperwork is due by December for next year. She said she will look and see if there's anything she can do to help us money-wise, but she's going to be pretty limited. Also, the weed manager in Fremont County, he's brand new. I already asked him because the previous member, I believe, was from Fremont, and he said his name is Nick, and I can't think of his last name.
Romano. Nick Romano.
And he said he is completely overwhelmed in his new position, so he's not going to be able to assist us very much. Kayla said she's in over her head. She does have an intern, a seasonal intern this year, but they both have said that if we get a weed manager on board and it can be just a certified operator for the first year and then can apply to become an official manager, they said that they can train that person up, no problem. They can get that done in a few weeks so that we have an experienced person in the county. They are having the Upper Ark Cooperative Weed Management meeting. The next one is on the 12th of April, so they asked me to come and attend so we can network a little bit and see who else might be available to help us and how so, and that'll be in Canyon City, like I said, on the 12th. If we need to have Kayla come, or anyone else come to apply herbicides in the county, it's going to be $65 an hour for labor and equipment use, and that does not include the cost of the herbicide itself. And she said, again, she will be very limited in what she will be able to provide. So, let's see.
Can I interrupt you just for a second? Go back to April the 12th. That group is meeting in Canyon?
In Canyon at the Garden Park building at 9:30 a.m. And they're going to talk about grants, CDOT, BLM, etc. And they meet 4 times a year.
Okay. That is also the same day that the Conservation District is having a workshop in West Cliff. Okay. My intention was to attend that, so probably would not be at your Canyon City meeting. But
okay. And at that time, I'll be at the 4-H mega meeting for extension in Breckenridge, but that's the last day and it only goes for a couple of hours, so I'm going to go to this
try to get back to that as well.
I'll get over there to it.
If we absolutely need representation there, I would think let us know that, and one of the 3 of us probably could cover that.
Okay.
Thank you.
She said that the state is more than willing to help support, so if we were to hire a seasonal interim certified operator, that they could possibly help reimburse for the salary for that first year, so it would end up costing us nothing in the long term if we could front that cost in the interim. She also highly recommended that if we do everything in-house in the county, it would be much more cost-effective, where if we went with an outside contractor, we're looking at $125 minimum an hour instead of $65 an hour. And all we need is somebody who is a certified operator and who can go through the training. And then they would report to the commissioners and the weed board.
Okay.
And that's it. So they would be reporting outside of the county. So of course it is in the Weed Act that we are supposed to have that board established, and we are supposed to have a weed manager in the county. So she just urged us to try our best to get that up and running. That she gave me a few resources, a few different colleges where we could seek out someone. And then she said that there is potential. She does have a new intern who's coming this summer, who's a trained professional from Minnesota, I believe, who is looking to move to the area. So in a year, we could potentially have a highly trained person just ready to go.
Obviously, this is a statutory thing. We don't have any choice on this matter. We have to get this weed board put in place.
So based on that, and based on the recommendation from the council, I would like to move that we, by resolution, formally form a Custer County Weed Advisory Board.
I'll second that motion.
I stumbled over advisory intentionally.
Thank you, sir. It's been moved and seconded that by resolution we establish a Custer County Weed Advisory Board. Discussion.
Just real quick, how come, Clint, we have to have a resolution established? Didn't we have one established before? I'm just asking for some history. And
No,
what
I think
happened?
this resolution says Kelly Camper looked and could not find anything. It never was established.
Yes.
Actually, I thought that today was just going to be on the agenda, or it wasn't even on the agenda. We were going to put it on the agenda for March 30th to establish a board. It's not really an agenda item for today to consider this resolution.
Table it till then.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll
Table
withdraw
it or
that.
withdraw. Your
We'll
choice.
table it, and let's put it on the end of the month.
All right, thank you.
I'll second that motion. It's been moved and seconded to table the item of business before the group until the March 31st meeting. This is not a debatable motion, as a matter of fact. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item of business has been tabled specifically about creating the weed board by resolution. We can continue this discussion. My suggestion would be, even without that, I think we need to pick a date and we need to schedule a meeting. We need to send out an invitation to your current list and press forward. If they can make it, great. If they can't, I think we have to live with that. We're getting further behind the 8 ball every day. So
That was my plan, and I mean, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to help in any way I can. And I know we already talked where I'm not allowed to be in charge of this board, but I can serve on it. I can help with education and outreach, but the implementation and treatment, I've got to get somebody to do.
are you comfortable with at least taking the lead on getting this first meeting together? I can certainly chair that meeting. It's not an issue until we get somebody in a leadership role. Okay.
How many members are there supposed to be?
There's not a set number of members. I think there was a minimum number. I don't remember that exactly. I've looked at that statute.
10?
10?
We were looking at both of the boards at the same time, their bylaws. I want to say it was 8 to 10.
Yeah. We've got a list of who was on that board previously, and that's where we started as a baseline for that. So can we pick a date? Do you have your calendar with you today? Or?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Who is this young lady?
Oh, I'm sorry. I introduced her earlier when she was here. This is Shannon Auth. She is our new extension director in the county building. Yes.
And we're very
That's a great question. Thank you for asking. Yeah. April-ish? Or you want to try to squeeze it in before the end of March?
Given the difficulties I had in scheduling the extension advisory meeting, I think April would be best.
Okay. Did you get the extension advisory meeting scheduled?
I have.
I was not aware of that. When is that?
And I haven't sent it out yet. But,
Okay.
I'm sending that out today. It'll be on Tuesday, April the 3rd at 2 o'clock. And
Okay. At 2 o'clock?
in town, yes. I don't have the address off the top of my head, but Greg Watkins.
Are we going to have it at Greg Watkins' office?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll be out the 9th through the 12th
Of April?
of April because I'll be in Breckenridge and then in Canyon for those different meetings. But other than that, I'm open, so I don't know if we want to do
What about
Wednesday the 4th.
afternoon of the 4th? We have a commissioner meeting in the morning, but I think the afternoon would function. I don't know if you gentlemen want input on this. It's
I'd like
no
to be
problem.
there for that.
Okay.
Do it on that. That's a good idea.
All right, afternoon of the 4th, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, what do you think?
1 o'clock?
We should be done by then, I would think, don't you, Donna? No, I know. We're not gonna
Well,
use
it
this
depends
as a
on whether you want
comparative.
lunch or
Don't do
not.
that.
Yeah, let's do 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock?
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry. I'm bad about trying to jam everything up.
At the commissioner's room?
I don't know if we'd have room in there or not in the commissioner's room. If we get 10 people plus 2 or 3 of us, we're looking at 14, 15 people.
I mean, we don't have 10 people on that list.
Okay. All right, let's try it there. If it's too big, maybe we can slip into the courtroom if we need to. Commissioner room?
That's on 4.
Yeah, April 4th at 2 o'clock in the commissioner's room.
If you have any
If you're
inkling that
crowded
you,
up there, sure, we got room down here.
And good coffee.
And good chair, yes, ma'am. Sorry.
if you think that you might need the courtroom, you better check
Yeah,
their schedule.
I'll do that this afternoon. I'll ask them. Thank you.
And I'll ask them to get back to me by the end of the week.
Yeah, I guess there's 2 ways to go back. Either get back to you or say, this is when the meeting's scheduled. Let me know if you can make it.
That's what I was going to do,
Okay.
but I was going to say, I want to know if they're going to make it.
Right, yeah, let's
that I
not
can
put this
say,
date
you know what,
out
we've
for
got
discussion.
12.
It's,
Yeah.
don't you think that's reasonable? Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you, ma'am. Anything else?
Up the good work.
If
Not
you,
unless you want anything else. If you want to know how dire the situation is, I could expand on that. But
of the weed?
yes.
Oh,
Yes, I was told that we are 20 years behind in our weed management, and that we have thousands of acres lost already. So we need to get on it.
Yeah.
But that was it.
and did I read it correctly that weed management plans to be reviewed every 3 or 5 years?
3 years.
3 years,
That's our
okay.
review this year.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, this was the year. All right, let's get that thing rolling, and we'll, if you need some further help with that, let me know. I think you have all the contact information now of all those people?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing will be trying to get somebody from like CDOT. to come
CDOT,
in.
okay. Did we ever get a lead on CDOT?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'll keep working on it.
Okay, I thought Roger Squire said he was gonna contact, I could pull it up, but I hate to take the time. The gentleman that was mostly involved in, and was, I think he served as chair of that committee as well. So let's touch base again with Roger and see.
Okay.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay,
Moving right along.
moving right along, not unless I can find my agenda. Thank you, ma'am. I almost have a notion, with your permission, gentlemen, to roll after prom donation request down and move Economic Development Corporation up. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
Yes, sir. You've now been promoted.
Why do you end up at the end of our meetings all the time?
I know.
Glad I came late.
Oh, that's why.
You didn't come too late.
No, I didn't come too
Come
late.
late enough.
Would you mind, Terry, if I go in the bathroom real quick while you're setting up?
Go right ahead.
You say you mind, I'm gonna sit down.
No,
but it
I
would not
don't
be
want you to
fun.
get too strained now.
So throw some hot coffee.
Hey, Bill, it's the 13th.
13, 14, so we don't have a conflict.
Are we in a recess?
Well, Tom is.
Oh,
We're doing business here.
okay. I won't pause it then.
We're not in recess.
Guess we're in recess?
No, we're just in, we're in hiatus.
3-minute
Well,
recess.
I'm just gonna pause it.
All right, sir.
We have 2 issues. Number one, I think the last meeting I talked to you about the Certified Small Business Community Program, which we've had 2 meetings with the state manager on this program, as well as Carolyn Tranny of the Small Business Development Center, in preparation for the submittal of what I'm asking from y'all is a letter of recommendation. There's no financial obligations or anything else as far as the county's concerned, and we will be hopefully on the agendas for both of the towns for their April meeting to gain similar letters of support from them. And I believe Brenda's got a something that, yeah, for that. So,
Okay, we want to deal with that first?
Please.
Okay. I have a couple comments, gentlemen, if I may. Mr. Candy, you okay with that? Do you have the copy of this?
I think so. I got it out of order here.
Okay, take your time. When I read this, I just found myself saying, wonder why that is. So I want to bring that up. Board of Custer County Commissioners individually and as a board. You
I
must
did not originate that.
Okay, all right. Then my question would be, no, I guess my concern is I don't believe the words individually and as a board need to be in that document. That's my personal opinion. We can discuss that. And then moving down to the fourth paragraph, consequently, the Custer County BOCC is happy to provide this letter of support to provide a high level of expertise to our existing and future small businesses through a, here's my question, sir, Custer County Economic Development Corporation supported certified small business community. Does that mean that this small business community will only be dealing with the Economic Development Committee, or can someone else become certified and work with these businesses?
The intent of this, because in all truthfulness no one's shown any other interest, is that economic development would be the local focal point for its operation.
Okay. Would it preclude someone else from becoming certified as a small business consultant?
Under the guidance of this, Custer County Economic Development is the sponsoring agency, and so we'd be glad to work with anybody that had a similar interest.
Right.
But I think to the extent of this, we would be the individual organization.
Okay. And should this letter be addressed to some persons or entity?
Looking at the letters we had last year, it went to whom it may concern, to the evaluation committee, to the whatever, and there's no particular direction as it relates to it.
Okay, thank you. Those were my initial concerns, gentlemen. Comments or questions?
I appreciate you taking this on, and it's going to be valuable for the community. And my initial concern when I read it was individually and as a board. We act as a board, so I wasn't really in favor of the individually, but I am individually in favor of this. There's no economic downfall to the county in terms of there's no cost to the county of doing this. The benefit is certainly a potential. I see no issue.
It's totally up to you.
I see no issue against it.
Theoretically, it could be one-liner that said we support this, period.
Sure.
But
yeah.
No,
I
thought agree. It is
thought the wording
wordy,
was,
but that was what came out of your counterparts a year ago.
How did your meeting go yesterday with the small business executive director?
We were looking particularly. We have to submit a budget. And we have to give thought and suggest as part of the proposal a sustainment program. I mean, there's possibilities of 3 years of this on an annual basis. One of the things that kind of we ultimately fixed yesterday was that in dealing with businesses and such like that, if we bring them to the office rather than at their business, we need to give them a degree of confidentiality.
Right.
We need to be able to shut the door to support discussions. If you're familiar, our Chamber Economic Development Office right now does not really offer that. So we were really concerned about availability of something that offered that service and without a tremendous expense. And so we have been looking at various offices and stuff, and we, from the Chamber Economic Development Office, we went over to the old bank building where Round Mountain is, and we walked across over to Watson Real Estate. And we noticed there was a building adjacent to that, and we went in and talked to Watson.
Elizabeth.
And she volunteered. She says, "Oh, I've got a small conference room here. If you want to use it, great. You know, it's across the street from the office and all." And she says, "I won't charge you anything for it." Well, and we said, "Great." So we fell into the mode of that issue is resolved.
Okay.
And so, and we're happy with that because it's our experience over the last 2.5, 3 years is we spend more time generally with business owners at their facility, but you know there is a need, and that needs to be recognized. So, and we came up with a budget roughly, and we need to finalize some of it, but there's a $30,000 a year cap on the funding, and they've told us last year they only awarded one place $30,000, and it was generally something less than that. We came up with a budget that would probably be in the $12,000 to $15,000 range, with a lot of it being, for lack of better terms, promotion and advertisement, because a lot of our business people are not aware of not only the services at remote locations, but the fact of our efforts locally. So to hit our media and to help promote that is a big element of the cost. So, but that's being finalized, and we've got until the end of May to make that submittal.
Okay.
So who's the budget come from?
Say again?
Who's the budget? Where's the budget? Whose money is it?
It comes from the state, the Small Business Development
So
Center.
the $12,000 budget you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, there's two elements of support, and that should be in the brochure that you got, probably not in the color version. There's up to $30,000 in cash with no match required, and then there's $10,000 in technical assistance from the Small Business Development Center, and that basically supports direct costs that, say, the Pueblo office would provide us as far as training and supplemental support.
I got a couple questions, just quick ones. And forgive the ignorance here, but certified, who's doing the certification?
SBDC.
And they're out of where?
Pueblo. I mean, statewide.
Well, it's statewide, but so in order to get people certified, it's a class of some kind, right?
Yeah, and two of us have gone through that with the Pueblo office and have become certified.
Okay, and what does that mean then, and how you operate? Give me an example. You're certified at what, and who do you, and when you talk to, what's the process of business you're going to do?
Well, what it does, it opens the door for some of the assets that the Small Business Development Center has. It's basically a relationship between us as individuals, and it's as much as anything that we are familiar with and trained in the rules of how Small Business Development Center functions.
Right, and so I want to try to get a handle. So here in Westcliff or in Wetmore, right? You could
Custer County.
But so you open up an office, give advice. Just help me here. You're going to talk with a small business guy in town that can do some things, and there's some assets available for him to take advantage of to help him grow, or what? How does it work?
Well, many of our small business folks run out of experience as it relates to the healthiness of their business. And it comes down, our success story is Chips ATV in Silver Cliff.
Okay.
We've worked with them over a year to the extent of helping them organize their books, their accounting, their business plan and such. And basically after almost a year, they had aspirations of buying the location that they had there across from Tony's Pizza. For various reasons, another location came up better that's right there just a few blocks away.
Right, so
we helped them get qualified and with a combined loan from our local bank and the enterprise zone, got them a loan of in excess of $100,000 so they could buy that business location.
Okay. And so how do people find out, Charles, then?
Generally, and that's one reason why generally our folks are not aware of SBDC, and they aren't even aware of our efforts, so part of it is promotion. Most recently we had a referral from the bank because there was some young folks that had a diesel repair shop up in the northern PUC that had come to the bank for financing, and they didn't qualify there. But so it was a matter of introducing us to them, and that the intent was to try to help them get their business plans, their books and everything in better shape so they could qualify. And in that particular case, with a little help, they decided that they'd quit business and go to work for somebody else.
Okay, so that's great. And I want to go back to what point Tom brought up earlier. This isn't the Custer County Economic Development Corporation initiative. It's actually an organization that's supported statewide. It's a good thing for Custer County, and I would encourage anybody that would. I think we have a lot of talent in this valley that could help give advice on different kinds of businesses. I wouldn't want just to think that it's part of this your corporation that you understand what I'm saying. We want it to be bigger.
I would love.
You need help.
I would love for more people to come and help us.
So how do we do that? And
well,
we got to get that.
Part of it, and looking at, we've got a lot of quiet, non-involved people, I think, in the county. Personally, I think and a lot of it's in the retired community. They look at what's worthwhile and what they want.
What's fun for them to be
well,
involved
maybe
in.
not.
Interesting.
I was going to say maybe not all fun, but the point being, and I think a lot of it is they'll watch and see if something's sustainable and working, and
right.
then they look and see whether they want to get
so
involved.
You said Elizabeth Watson volunteered a place to hang a shingle. So I think that's important. It's a Custer County sponsored, state supported activity to help our local people grow. And we need to get that word out. It needs to be publicized and all that kind of thing.
But they provide systems and assets for us to facilitate that effort, yes.
Okay, good. I would move that we sign this letter of support with some amendments. And those amendments would be to strike the words individually and as a board, and that we delete the comma after the word commissioners on the next to the last line in that document. Maybe the office does belong to the commissioners. I would guess I would leave that up to Brenda. And then I would request that my name be changed to Tommy G as a document instead of Tom.
And I would like to consider additionally, Tom, and I don't know how to word this, but we already have a group established here. I like the fact that you guys got it going, but I think we need to. We've already got a nucleus established with the help of you all. Currently working with 8 local, we had the ability to certify it as sustainable. I would like to keep this more generic and make it broader to say we expect to grow with it and take what started.
It's still got to be within the structure that we've got, which obviously we're a small group, and obviously more help would certainly be good.
Well, see, I like your last sentence in that. The ability of the certified small business community to provide sustainable is essential. That's just a statement. We don't, all we're doing is establishing this. I don't think we need the rest of the PR in there. To me, I mean, we're trying to make this concise, and we want to stand this organization up and have it be a county-supported activity. Consider, we're already going to change this anyway. Let's.
All I care is that it's done adequately, so Actually, we're trying to get to the point where we don't bump the end of the submittal schedule.
When is it?
It's, and that was provided, it's the end of May.
Okay, that'll work.
So,
I'll second the motion.
thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we sign a letter of support with the aforementioned amendments. Bill, are you wanting to include something else
I
here?
I would just make this a
fourth
little
paragraph?
conciser and just focus on really it's the ability to sustain an environmentally low pact in businesses as our crucial. We can work that in.
Okay, I'm not quite following
So
you.
I
That
would-
sentence is in there.
Well, what we
right?
that sentence is the whole focus of this whole letter, actually. To provide the top paragraph says to provide sustainability for our existing small businesses and to provide an incentive for potential incoming small business. I would take the last sentence of that next paragraph and attach it up there, Charles, right behind that sentence.
Behind the word vital.
Behind the word vital. Get rid of the rest of that. We don't need it. And, we've got, in that same paragraph, you say we've already established a start of this thing. Keep it to that paragraph, and then consequently, Custer County's happy, blah, blah, blah. Make sense to you?
I have no problem with it, yeah.
Does it make sense to you, ma'am? Because you're probably
Here, I'll
the
help
one.
it.
Yeah, just
I'll
mark
help
it
her
up
with
and
it. This is easy.
The intent here is to indicate to the Certified Small Business Development Center that you, as an economic development corporation, that we are supporting the idea that you are going to be involved with that center.
Yes.
For the mentioned reasons here to help small businesses.
You bet.
Okay. So.
I'll work with it.
We either do it now or we table it.
We'll put the focus right here. Bring that sentence right back up here behind vital. And you can leave, I don't care if you leave the two members in, consequently we go, but I think the focus is just bringing that.
Are you comfortable with tabling this until we get the document rewritten? That would be March 31st. Or do we want to hammer out the details and press on with the motion?
I have no problem either way.
Okay. In the essence of time
31st,
and.
I think, is a Saturday.
Not the 30th.
30th.
30th, did I say the 31st?
That's just next week.
Sorry. Yes, sir.
Just in the essence of time, I think we're all in agreement that we support this.
Right.
It's just the
Let's
semantics.
just work the semantics.
So, can I suggest a friendly amendment to your motion that we support it, and the three of us will work out the language we want, we'll sign it, and we don't have to bring it back again, and we just get it done?
I like it.
If we have consensus from the Economic Development Corporation, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Because when we bring it up on the agenda, we talk more about it.
That's my point.
We don't need to do that.
We support you is what we're saying. It's,
Right.
We have some semantics to fix.
I have no problem with
Bill did.
the intent. The intent is right. It's the editorial issue.
Okay, yeah, and
That's
that's where I'm.
Devil's in the details. Yeah.
Right.
Make it strong.
It's been moved and seconded that we sign a letter of support after some wordsmithing on the current document that we have and present that to Mr. Bogles and the Economic Development Corp. Further discussion, gentlemen? Public comment? Yes, ma'am.
At your own peril.
The question is just informational. How does that work with the Chamber of Commerce?
Well,
What does that
since the current president of the Chamber of Commerce is on my economic development board, it's certainly in close, but as far as the sponsorship goes, it's focused towards economic development organizations. And so we'll take the lead on it. But, and to tell you more than one, actually there's an informal relationship between Economic Development Chamber, CART, and the Tourism Board, where we meet periodically and inform each other of what we're doing, and try to be as efficient amongst those four organizations.
And is there a cost for any businesses to utilize your services?
No.
What about home businesses? Does that?
Businesses, if it's a legitimate business, they've got a right to ask of our services.
Okay.
Good. Okay, further comments? Yes, ma'am.
Just another quick question. Is this something that, Charles, you're going to have to go after this grant every year in order to stay in business, if you will? Or if you lose this grant, is this going to be a problem that you're going to need money from the county, or what does that look like?
There's the formal program has got it's an annual thing for 3 years through this. Part of, like I alluded to earlier, part of the plan and the submittal is how we would perpetuate it after that 3 years of state funding. And considering the extent that economic development, I mean, there was some comment last year, we've been working with SBDC for almost 3 years as it is anyway. This just gives us more resources and allows us to increase the visibility in the community that we're here doing this. So.
Further public comment? Yes.
So then these monies that you're asking for go towards advertising mostly?
Part of it.
And then the other part is?
Just consumables, you know, I mean, it takes a certain amount of paperwork and all of that. And the fact is that we've been doing it, we've just been absorbing that cost amongst us as individuals. So it doesn't, there's a number, a brochure on it I'd be glad to provide you with, but it's a sustainment situation. But a lot of it is to try to raise the visibility of the SBDC efforts to businesses, because I know I've talked to some of the new businesses around, and they're ignorant that there's those kind of resources to help them.
And would part of those resources be allocated to the businesses themselves? Could you say, out of this grant, we're going to give you $8,000 and you advertise, you do this, you upgrade, you retrain? Okay. So that money does not flow.
There's ways we could introduce them to money sources and
but,
such like that.
But it doesn't flow out of that particular. Yes, sir.
I just want to praise them for this because we used the Fremont County Economic Development Corporation 20 years ago to start a business, and they helped us greatly. And we discovered them because they came around to our small business back then. They helped us grow. They helped us purchase land at the airport in Fremont County, and they just helped us grow. Good. It's a thriving business now.
Okay, final comment. I agree. One last point, and Cindy brought up a good point. It's the sustainability is an issue because it's going to be good PR. Everybody's going to say, come to Custer County to help you establish it. They got advice. They can go do this and get you familiar. So it becomes an issue if this grant does go away. And we've got to think about that.
That's
not get
our
caught
obligation
flat-footed.
to answer that and minimize the effect of that.
Right.
Good. Further public comment? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor of the motion which states that we will sign a letter of support to the Colorado Small Business Development Center on behalf of the Economic Development Corporation, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. If you'll pass that back down and then we'll start over. Fair enough? Thank you, ma'am.
There was one thing that I forgot to say at the beginning,
okay.
And for the matter of public record, we really appreciate the support and the attendance of all three of you when we gave the broadband, I won't say plea, support with the DOLA and the board up there. I think it really strengthened our position, and sitting through the other meetings, they didn't have that kind of support.
No, they didn't.
And like I say, I think it served Custer County well, so thank you for that.
You're welcome. It was our pleasure to be there. May I ask a question then, just so I get my mind wrapped around all of this? The Ready grant application that we've got in several different attachments here is the grant we were just speaking about.
Okay,
about
broadband?
No,
Okay.
about
Small business.
SBDC?
Yes, thank you. I could not get my
No, that's
tongue
not
around
the
it.
Ready
SBDC.
grant.
That's not the Ready Grant.
No.
Okay. Let me back up. What's next, sir?
Okay.
Sorry, I was jumping the gun.
The other is a Ready Grant. If you'll remember, last year we had a OEDIT support for a community assessment. The justification for that application desired an ultimate product was a economic development master plan for the county. We got what could be construed as a first step towards that. We got a SWOT. One of the final recommendations in that SWOT by the team was that we should pursue an economic plan. And so I contacted OEDIT and DOLA. OEDIT said, we don't have any money. Go check DOLA. I checked with DOLA, and we're encouraged that that we could get support for that. You may remember that our efforts as far as the follow-up on the community assessment, with all the confusion and everything we had during the fall and winter, basically, and I'll take the blame for it, our actions stopped. So now the challenge is to reinvigorate the follow-up to the community assessment, bring awareness in the county and to the citizens on that. We had good participation during the 3-day event, but there were some holes in it as far as what we need to do to support ultimately an economic development master plan. And so actually the one thing that you've got, should have gotten, was a proposal from Trent Company. I identified her, a couple of years ago when we previously attempted that, and been keeping her up to speed on what it is. And so I have a proposal that she would help in our reinvigoration of the post-cap operations, and then develop further community questionnaires and stuff as it specifically relates to economic development. This would be probably over about a 6-month period for $29,500. If you have an opportunity, her website, she is...
Who's this, Charles? What's her name?
Cheryl Trent, the Trent Company. She's had a lot of different exposures as it relates to economic development, and she's on the as consultant to the number of communities. And this is the raw data that she gave me as far as proposal that we'll have to manipulate to get it into the computerized application. But so I'm preparing, with your approval and sponsorship in this case, a submittal by the end of the month. This covers the contracted requirements. From a local standpoint, we still have funding as it relates to meeting space, local advertisements and such like that I would estimate right now as a maximum of $1,500 in addition to the $29,500 that she's got. And I've coordinated with Brenda as far as the DOLA application process to get it into their computer. All of these grant requests now are kind of a fill in the blanks type thing. So I guess what I'm asking for is sponsorship, as we had in the previous DOLA grant request, by the county to proceed with a submittal by the end of the month.
For how much, and what's the match?
It would be 29.5, well, it actually, what, $31,000. There's no,
There's no matching. From
no
us.
matching requirement. There are words, and it's a decision that I need you to be aware of. They do say no minimum match is required. However, based on financial data in kind and or cash match may increase the success of application. I don't think that's an issue with us, so I don't have any heartburn of just submitting for the no more than $31,000. Yes.
So, Charles, if you were awarded the $31,000, what is the likelihood you'd come back to us and ask for more money because you didn't
If
have
they
enough?
warrant $31,000, that's it.
Okay.
So the answer is
zero.
No
Work with
likelihood.
31,000.
Okay, and bless you. So what you're really asking us for is just our authorization or our approval that we are with you on this project?
I think DOLA uses the word term sponsorship.
Sponsorship, that's
I
right.
mean,
I was
it's
trying
really
to
the
club
same
that
type
one.
of relationship that we had on broadband.
Basically, the money comes through the county.
Yeah, and it won't come directly to.
Right.
We'll work that out, and it'll come to the county, and then in turn to economic development.
Mm-hmm. I am struggling finding the matching wording. I read it. I just cannot find it sitting here right
I
now.
did the same thing. It's in the third page of the DOLA.
Oh, it's not on your conduct community meetings document. That's where I was looking. Sorry. It's in the grant app, the first page of the grant application.
What are you looking for, Tom?
The statement.
Matching.
Yeah, dealing with the matching grant. Was it page 3?
Well, I thought it was 3. I marked it here just a second.
Attachment 1 or what?
Second page, under
Okay.
general grant requirements, the second item.
Okay, ours are labeled a little differently than yours, so. Okay, see, that's not our
It's not
second
the,
page, so just give us a second
Let's see
here.
that,
I think it's attachment number
Is it
1.
Attachment
page,
1.
Under grant requirements.
Yeah.
Okay. Man, I
Looks
just
like this.
cannot get it.
This one here.
See, we didn't get a cover
didn't get
letter
that?
to that document. I never got this page with the DOLA thing on the front, I don't
Is that what,
believe.
that you're looking at that?
Yeah.
Yeah. There it is. Right here. No
Right
minimum.
here.
Okay. I know I read that somewhere, I just cannot. This was of the 7-page document that you sent us?
I think it was a separate document.
Separate.
Oh, it was?
So-
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Mhm.
And I think
So what this is, Charles, in a nutshell, is a strategic way to develop a strategic economic development plan, right?
Way to
yes,
fund
That's
that.
what this
plan
is.
and implementation.
And get it funded, and then we'll deal with it. So, and it could be this lady you mentioned, Cheryl Trent deal, or it can be however we want to work, developing a plan, right? It could be more
Yeah,
people involved.
because I admitted to her, and I'm just ready to admit to OEDIT that this is not necessarily one of my strong skill sets,
Sure.
and we need some more
We
help.
get expert help
You
and
bet.
volunteers in the county that can help potentially. Just as we start to, once we get the grant, if we get the grant, we can develop the plan. I'm
Well,
good with it.
Christy was on the team that did the community assessment, and so I had talked to her right after the assessment was made, and it talked about suggesting we needed this other stand. So I'm really, it's a little different than I might have foreseen a year ago. The fact that we'll take the community assessment, grow on that, and get the communications and then relate it into a plan. Not only goals, but an implementation plan.
Well, that's
for
what
economic.
the headline's a pretty good one here. Conduct community meetings, create a community vision, and adopt an economic development strategic plan for the future.
Which, to the best of my knowledge, we've got master plans, but they don't address the economics of the county.
Yes.
And what specifically, I know we're going to give you the support if it's approved. Is there anything else specifically we need to do? Is there a letter that needs to be signed, or are you just going to put down on the application?
This will be the same thing. We'll need to show a contact with the county, which I would assume would be the chairman unless he declares otherwise. And then, and it's kind of a two-level thing, just like we've done on broadband, is that, with y'all's authority and through your sponsorship and further coordination with us, economic development will do the accomplishment of it. So,
well, I'd just like to make the comment that I think this is something we certainly need to pursue. I mean, we ought to have a strategic plan. If DOLA is willing to fund it for us, one more time, I'll say thank you, DOLA, and thank you for the economic development for doing this. And I'm trying to find the downsides as why I would not say okay, and I'm not finding anything.
And so you're looking for a motion to support you moving forward with this READY grant?
yeah. And then if you would, obviously we've got a week or so of detail that, and it needs to be submitted really before your next meeting, because I'm going to be out of town on that meeting, but so that we can get it, get it in and y'all have a review of it. But at this stage of the game, I would suggest that we'd be asking for not more than $31,000.
Okay.
And Brenda's going to help you with it, right? Is that your plan? And that shouldn't be hard to do.
And then just so you know, if we do get the grant, then I also help Charles get the money working through the reimbursement requests
Right.
and
It's
getting
reimbursable,
the checks
correct.
and writing
Yeah,
checks.
and we need, and we did this before on the 38,000 that did the tower study. And I've mentioned before, we probably need to formalize a memorandum of agreement between the two organizations just to define who does
Need
what.
roles and responsibilities of who's doing
Exactly.
what.
And I would assume that, we did one a year or two ago for the tower study, which was relatively simple. The one for, if we go through and get the tower money, that's going to be a little more complicated just because of the...
And this is a little bit different too, because you're asking expertise to be hired. And so that's something...
we're going to do that on the towers too.
Well, I'm not done with the towers yet either, but I'm just saying, this is different than what you did before when you went out and got us to back the DOLA grant, for the study or the 30,000, whatever we did initially.
Well, that was an OEDIT, and the
Right.
expertise came out of OEDIT team.
Right, so it's a little bit different. But the point I'm making is, this is a organization that builds strategic plans and helps with things, that expertise you don't have. So the point is that, and then the money is our responsibility to manage here as a county. And so that's why it's important to have a point of contact on the board to keep the tracks in the sand legal and up to snuff. And it doesn't mean that we wouldn't have another contractor helping do so. It depends on how things evolve, that we would be managing the money with you in this case to help orchestrate this thing. That's all my point is.
Yeah.
And so as things change, we definitely need to keep on top. We're not just saying, okay, I think it's good to get the motion going. I think we can do that and have Brenda work with you to get the DOLA grant applied for. And then we'll work together to set up the process of executing it.
But I don't see that we would necessarily change subcontractors in this
No,
case.
I'm not saying we would. I'm just saying, but that is a deal. And And then usually in a government contracting deal, Charles, you do care about who, you have a sole source here you've gone to already.
Well, no,
because
actually, we vetted this 2 years ago.
With who?
Well, economic development vetted for various sources
Okay.
that could support this, and
And it was approved by the previous county commissioners or whatever?
no, it never got to. I'll put it this way: your predecessors chose not to forward it.
Right. But my point is, Board of Commissioners here now, it's our money to make sure we're responsibly managing, and we want to, and just because you vetted them, that may be good, but we don't have the history on that. And this seems like the right people to be doing it. They're the ones that are involved right now. And all I'm suggesting is once the money comes in, we sit down and we understand who's involved, what can be there, what are the options. It may or may not be the right way to go, because things have changed. I don't know.
We're pretty well defining ourselves to DOLA what we're going to do and how we're going to do it.
No, I understand that.
And I guess one thing, one of these days, y'all are going to have to get to the point where you trust us.
Well, that's the point.
That we're capable of doing this, or don't support us.
Well, that's the point.
And the fact is we have, from a management standpoint, I think we're capable. But the point being is, we're trying to relieve you as county commissioners a certain burden of your jobs. And unless we can do that with a degree of trust, and Lord knows we're willing to share and be totally visible in our efforts.
So
but
that's okay. No, we're not arguing with that, and we want to proceed. I apologize if we're coming up to speed and you're 7 years ahead of us, and you've got all the experience talking to these people. You're going to have to be patient as we come up to speed with you.
But I'm not going to micromanage
No.
Custer County Economic Development Corporation. They have
that.
done this work. They have brought it up. They're coming to us, asking us to help them fund a process that they've been in place for a long time. Like I said a minute ago, I see no downside to this. And I personally will not micromanage you. No. I trust you to do your job
Just so you all know,
properly.
there's no money until it's spent already.
Yeah, it's all on reimbursement.
Right.
No, I understand that.
And I guess my question would be, where does that money come from up front?
Okay, we've worked it. What happened? I mean, ultimately the money comes from the state. Typically, we, in the contract to subcontractors, we'll have a 30 to 45 day for pay. So we'll be invoiced by, in this case, Trent. And what we effectively do is we cut a check. It's not delivered. It's shown to DOLA that we've made the check. It goes to DOLA. We get a disbursement within nominally 30 days from DOLA.
Usually it's about 10 days.
Yeah, and generally, we've worked the schedule, and then once the county gets the money, then we make the distribution. So,
and just to put a little ointment on it, you understand, I have no idea how that worked until I asked you that question.
and it's not something that we necessarily broadcast.
Yeah, I understand that. However, as I think Bill's indicating, that we're getting ready to put our name on that, and so.
But I think at an earlier schedule, the 38,000 that worked pretty well. Once we got the communication, right. DOLA is quite responsive on the payments, and similarly, I know the question was on our tower thing. Have no reason to think we can't manage the same thing, because so it's not an obligation of county funds as such,
right?
Except I guess you'd say on paper,
right. But my heartburn would be if all of a sudden this company invoices us and we hit a snag, and now somebody's going to come to the Board of Commissioners and say, we need $21,000 and we need it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just asking. I'm with Bill. We got to get educated.
It's one of the procedural things that protects us all.
Okay. And this company, where are they from?
She's up in Fort Collins.
Okay, so it is a Colorado company.
You bet.
S Brand, is that? That's the only where down at the very last page of that. I'm on your blue conduct community meetings, I don't know what else to call it, create a development strategic plan document with the blue title, correct. The only place I saw anything was down there at the very bottom where it said S Brand 2018, her little logo or his logo. I never saw it mentioned anywhere else.
You're probably right.
Okay, that's fine, that's why I'm asking.
And the thing about it is that this would be considered an internal document because this won't be delivered to
not a
to
deliverable.
DOLA.
And if the grant comes through, this is the direction you're gonna go, that's your intent?
No need to change otherwise.
Okay, okay.
And like I say, I've kept a dialogue with her since we attempted this a couple of years ago, and she's been very responsive, and as far as turning things around, and which reflects to me, this is not the first rodeo she's gone to, and she brings like I say, I'll get you a copy of her website or something. She's got real good credentials, and she's got contacts within the state's OEDIT organization and stuff like that help make the thing run smoother. So,
is there a motion out here?
There's not a motion. What's the group's pleasure?
I move that we support the Custer County Economic Development Corporation with the grant for $31,500.
No.
Is that right? $31,000 to support the strategic plan.
If we want to include Jay getting it done before our next meeting so they don't have to come back. I mean, we're going to authorize them to go.
Yeah, I think if we approve it, then we could just write a letter and the three of us sign
actually,
it.
I don't
even need that.
Don't need a letter. It's
You just need it to you.
We'll put it as we indicate in the application, and with the computer input, it doesn't require a signature, but it's kind of like on the other DOLA that we reflected as showing the chairman or whomever.
Would you like to include a point of contact in your motion, sir?
Well,
if you want to do that, I'm perfectly.
I've kind of been the contact for economic development. I'd be happy to do this unless I don't want to step on anybody's toes here.
No objection.
Over the next week, we can work out the details and such like that.
That'd be fine.
Is there a second?
And either Charles or I keep you up to date on what's going on.
Been moved and seconded that we support economic development corporation's efforts on the READY grant, not to exceed $31,000, and
for the development
for the development of the strategic plan. That's correct. With Commissioner Prince being our point of contact on this matter. Any further discussion? I'm getting there. Yep.
Just reminding you.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. No
I wasn't
offense.
trying to step on you.
I just don't want to do that until we have had an opportunity.
It's fine.
Any further discussion
I thought you
on
were
this
about
motion?
to ask
No.
for the vote.
Yeah, public comment? Thank you. No problem. Yes.
Is this grant then just to pay this company to write a strategic plan with you, or where does this money actually go?
It goes, the 29.5 will go to the Trent Company. And she basically, based on her experience and professionalism, will lead us through the process. And it has to do with, if you look at it, there's a number of surveys, and I think she's got in there 4 community meetings for inputs and stuff like that. And
that she leads, or?
Yeah, and directs it. And that's one of the things when we started in the post-community assessment. I consider myself a pretty good planner, but this is clear out of my box as far as how to structure it and to be able to say with confidence that, hey folks, when you come to these meetings, here's the goal, here's the process we're going through. And she's done this before multiple times. So it's, and it's kind of like the person from out of town with a briefcase. I mean, we're bringing in some experience on it. That this is a one only for us as far as coming up with the next.
You can't see it in here, but
Yeah,
it's
just what I was gonna
involved a
say.
lot of the other people in the community to get together to help develop this plan. I mean, this is classic strategic
So
planning.
you're essentially paying her $29,000 as a consultant fee.
That's basically it.
And the state DOLA is saying, yeah, I think that's worthy of.
If they approve it.
And amongst their plans, there's, for these ready accounts, there are 3 types of projects that are covered. And the first one is local government economic planning and capacity grants. And so this falls within that realm. And, you know, it's like so many things that DOLA does, they complement what we got asset-wise, from a government standpoint or a people standpoint.
This is one of the things that we all, and when Tom and I were campaigning as well last year, we need a vision, we need a purpose, we need a roadmap to help develop this county smartly and efficiently and wisely. And it gives us an opportunity to get the people of the county involved. That's the most important thing. It's not this board doing a couple things together and deciding this is the road we're going to go. It's you all that have to participate, and that's what we have to make sure happens.
And really, it ought to be something that as we implement it, there'll be adjustments in it and changes as we progress through. But the fact is that in today's world, if we're looking for other help, or it's just like our broadband plan. It's good to say our plan says we ought to do this, and it brings credibility to it, and for additional help and selling new businesses and what we want to do. And right now, I've over the last since 2012 with economic developments, somebody says, well, why do you think broadband's necessary for it? Because of all the effort in a long time. Well, right now it's some of us on the economic development. This will, embrace the community in ideas that yes, we hopefully will support the fact we need broadband, we need affordable housing, we need to look at our transportation, need a lot of the infrastructure things that support a sound community.
And to just back up what your question was, we were provided a document that did outline where the 29,000 or how the 29,500 was budgeted. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 meetings included in that where this company will come down to our county and sit down with the stakeholders. So. But that's exactly right. This is a grant to pay for a consulting firm to come and help us map out a strategic plan for economic development. End of statement, really.
And it's our tax money just coming back to the community. That's the thing about it is.
Okay. Yep.
Does it include the writing of the document?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Does not include hard copies of the document, electronic copies, but that's not a deal breaker because we can make our own. All right. Any other public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Well, I certainly support bringing, basically a hard gun in and, somebody who knows what they're doing and can provide us a roadmap based on what our community has as assets and what our community wants as a path forward. So I support that.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir. Yes.
I just had one little bitty question. It may or may not change, but I hear that the library needing $3,000. Is there any, is that appropriate in any of these DOLA grants to say, yes, we can provide you with software or we can provide you with whatever you need for upgrading?
Talking about the library?
Yes.
Yeah.
The short answer is yes. There's a lot of resources out there, and I won't admit that I know all of them. It's just like with our Trails Initiative, we're getting into the GOCO grants and stuff like that, and it's a matter of identifying the need and then asking some good questions. But it's all labored with so much paper.
Maybe you weren't here when the library was doing the spiel. But they were just needing this library here in Wetmore, and I'd like to see more development in Wetmore. It's still Custer County. We used to have a great steakhouse right next door.
Yeah.
And so can we think about that as part of the economic development as well?
There's nothing to keep from it, and I'll say too, and I'm aware of the library issues here, but people need to ask us.
Their representation has to be present when they have these meetings, and the whole county has to be considered, not the valley.
And I'm sure there's going to be some things coming out over these 4 or 5 meetings that probably very few of us have thought of. But the idea is to identify it, and we know we have some challenges as it relates to different parts of the county, not only economically but technically and such like that. And it's a matter of some priorities, but it's also squeaky wheel type things. We probably need more squeaky wheels.
Well, I just would like for you to consider that there's more to the county than just Westcliff and Silvercliff.
I'm the one that corrected it and said county.
And,
so
yeah,
I'm very sensitive to that.
Not to forget about Wetmore, because I think that there's a great possibility here as well.
Okay, further comment? We need to move on. Hearing none, we will proceed to vote on supporting economic development's efforts to move forward with the READY grant to support an economic development strategic plan. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Documentation as needed, you let us know. We're off and running.
Yeah, there is on that one form, and there's some county financial information.
Yeah, I saw that.
But I know, it's been done before, so it's...
okay.
And thank you all for approval on my 54th wedding anniversary.
Hey, congratulations. Well, happy anniversary. Happy anniversary. Go home, take the rest of the day off.
If I'm not mistaken, that was 12 to your first wife, 14 to your second. It's an old joke. It's an old joke.
No, as she says, she's an OW, the original wife.
That's right. Good. Thank you, sir. You bet.
Hey, Charles, you got time to stick around after the meeting so I can talk to you for a second?
Yeah,
we got 2 more items.
Gosh, I've been here all morning.
This won't take long.
Next item of business is after prom donation request from Custer County School. I think you gentlemen have a copy of said letter that was presented to myself, just because I happened to be in the office that day. The after prom thing had been implemented years ago, and 2 or 3 years ago it fell by the wayside. Now they're bringing that after prom activity back. April the 21st, they wanted to come to the commissioners and ask for a donation. I told them that I would put that on the agenda, and that brings us to this point. There's several activities. They're going to start down at the bowling alley, and then I believe they're going to move up as a group on bus transportation provided by the school up to the Highway 69 Roadhouse for some activities there. And then I believe they're going to finish at the Lang Hall near the Lutheran Church. So I told them that I would ask the commissioners what do they have would like to do. They did not have a number in mind. I asked them that. They said anything we could do would help. I talked to Mr. Baumgartner, the counselor. He said, obviously, we're not talking about hundreds and hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars. He just did not give me a number. And I did not get to visit with Donna about this specifically to see where this money would come from.
He needs an answer by when?
I dropped the ball on that. So, it's by the
April 12th.
12th. Yeah, by April 12th when they would like to have the donations.
Well, if you want to check before April 12th, you need to
I thought we
do
did
it now.
Right. I thought that they were hoping to get this money obviously by the 12th, so yeah, you're right. I hesitate to make a motion because I don't know what fund we would take the money out of, so that's my,
a dumb question.
and I kind of dropped the ball.
I'd like to say it's a fabulous, fabulous program they have. It keeps the kids safe. Prom night is traditionally a night that mayhem occurs. Traffic accidents, alcohol incidents, sexual activity, things that prom is noted for. And this keeps the kids safe. I am so in favor of this. I would like to personally make a donation, but I don't think it's a county issue, to be honest.
Okay, I agree with what you said. I also thought that depending on what the county did, that Mr. and Mrs. Flower would probably also make a cash donation to this effort. So,
yeah, I don't think we should as a county because there are conflicts with other kinds of schools. Where do you draw the line?
Okay.
And then you're exactly right. We have the Amish schools and all that.
I want to support it.
Okay.
I support this immensely. I'm just not sure it's a county issue.
Okay. So I will ask what the group's pleasure is. Obviously, we will not make a motion in the negative sense, so if we do not have a motion, we will move on. The chair will entertain a motion. Hearing none, we will press forward, taking no action on this item. Yes, ma'am. Quickly, please.
I kind of missed how much were they asking?
They weren't. There was no specified amount. Yep. Okay.
I'm certainly willing to make a donation myself.
Well,
thank you.
If you'd like a copy.
You bet.
yeah, that'd be great. We can.
Because that is a good,
Yeah,
good program.
certainly, as Commissioner Prince indicated, I don't believe any of us feel it was not a worthwhile effort to support. Not sure it was a county effort to support that. So, the next item of business, Commissioner Prince had asked to put an item on the under new business concerning a sidewalk on the northwest corner of the county property. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, sir. On the northwest corner of our county building, you may remember, may not, that there's some steps that are going down. They're falling apart. This is a town of Westcliff issue. They are about to rip up the sidewalk in front of the county building. They are going to put in ADA compatible ramps both on the north and south sides of 6th Street. To do so, they need to lower, they're going to rip up a bunch of sidewalk going up to the first set of steps so that there's a gradual slope going up. The steps are going to stay there, but there'll be ADA compatible ramps on both sides on the, I guess it's the south and east side. The issue that came up, and I asked Chairman Flower to come talk with Mike Carter, who is spearheading this for Westcliff, is that they're going to have to lower the sidewalk by between 12 and 18 inches. And the question came up, Westcliff was fine putting up, if we wanted, a retainer wall because it adjacent to our front lawn. And then the question came up, we know that there's some drainage issues that have been going on.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Helping to show him where the retaining wall
That's
is.
fine. So the problem that we have is, and this has been an issue at the courthouse for a very long time, our county building, I mean, that water from that corner goes back up towards the building. So the question was, this would be an excellent time if the county chose, at the county's expense, everything's that I've spoken to this point is Westcliff's expense, but at the county expense, if they chose to lower the slope to meet with where the town has to lower the elevation, we could get the drainage going the right way. Further discussion I've had with Mike Carter, the planning and zoning fellow at Westcliff, he said if the county is willing to, just kind of, and I hate to use the word trust me, but I think you probably could, they would get with Langston, who is going to do the work. They will do an elevation study to determine how much land the county would need to take and Westcliff will put a retaining wall up to whatever height it is, so that if we took the rest of the dirt off, the water would not flow back. So I told him that I would bring it to you, that this would be obviously an excellent opportunity for us to take care of a draining problem, mostly at Westcliff's expense. So that's kind of where we are.
But removal of that material would be at the county.
That's correct.
The county's responsibility.
Yeah, anything you did with the dirt would be yours.
Okay.
The cleanup of the road and the walkway and the ADA, that's all town expense. And they're willing to just go ahead, if the county chose not to do anything, they're going to go ahead and put that 18-inch or 12. They don't know exactly how high it'll have to be, whatever that retaining wall is to keep our dirt where it is.
So we would just fund Langston a little more money to do the job for us.
Or do it in-house.
Well, we'd probably do it in-house, I
find
think.
volunteers.
But there's a second point, because you asked a very good question. So that's A of the question that we approached. And then Chairman Flower and I were talking about the walkway between the parking lot and getting into Donna Hobby's office. There's the little trail of dirt. So we're thinking,
What are you talking about?
Behind, going across Jackie's place.
Yeah, exactly. So we were talking, would it make sense, while Langston's out there, to go ahead and make that into a cement walkway? I spoke to Mike about that. He said he'd be happy to do whatever we wanted. We would get a separate item from Langston on what they would charge to do that. We can either accept it or reject it. If we accepted it, he'd probably put it as part of the Westcliff bill, and we'd do a little interagency agreement, telling him we reimburse him for that portion only. So there's two items there. So, I'd like to have some direction on how you'd like to go.
We'll probably have to come from maintenance and building maintenance repair, if we did the sidewalk.
Yeah, if we did the one to Donna Hobby's office, yes, that would be, maintenance and repairs would fit into that. And it would just save us the money because they're already out there doing it. I mean, it would be less expensive.
I looked at that whole slope of that ground, and Mike Carter was exactly right. It does slope back to the building. My question is, my concern is how deep are we going to be able to excavate that without getting into some serious tree root situation, because there is a big tree just to the right of that arrow that he had penciled in. If we're dropping that 12 to 18 inches, I would guess we're going to start tearing up some roots. That's my only concern. I don't know that it would affect the health of that tree, but it certainly could.
So, I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I don't either. Maybe I could ask our maintenance person to just go out there and hand dig down and just pick a random spot and see how far down those tree roots are, lateral roots coming out. On a drought year, we're not concerned about it. On a wet year, we'd all be squalling because water's running into that courthouse.
That's where the problem lies.
Or into the county buildings.
I think it's okay to go ahead and risk it and then deal with it as we come across it.
That's my general feel, that we should move forward.
Risk it. It's okay.
Just go ahead and tell them to put the retaining wall, leave it the way it is?
No, just go ahead.
Take the ground, lower the slope.
Let them determine, because Langston would determine what is the minimum height to get the water coming down instead of back.
So if he said, hey, you need to cut down to this elevation mark.
6 inches or 8 inches, something, it'll probably be less than the full 18.
Yeah. As consensus, I certainly don't have a problem moving forward with it.
Okay.
If we need a motion now, we can. If we need it at a later point, we just need a kind of a green flag here.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
You're good.
And I'll also ask them to get a cost to do the walkway to Don, and then we can decide at that time whether that makes sense or not.
Perfect. Okay, good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thanks for your efforts on that.
No problem.
Any other new business, gentlemen? Hearing none, we'll move into public comment. Anything for the good of the order? Thank you, guys. I know you're patiently helping us grind through these. So.
Hanging in here.
Yes.
I just want to comment that I appreciate place another county, if you have there from my effort, I'll be willing to volunteer.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that.
This has headed broadband to this point.
I'll give you my card.
All right, anything else from the public? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed nay. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned at 12:57 p.m.
Gonna have to have some pizza.